Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the opening round of the eTeam BRIT GT3 Challenge and the SYNETIQ BMW Series, here live from a virtually speaking Donington Park Grand Prix circuit. My name's Alex Goldschmidt, and alongside me for this 8-race evening journey over the next 9 weeks is David Christie. Good evening, David.
Good evening, Alex, and what a wonderful way to start things off. Donington Park, iconic circuit, Alex. I am so excited to get into this series.
Very much the case, as we have a very interesting calendar starting here at Donington Park on the 19th of June. Then we head to the 2020 variation of Circuit Zandvoort on the 26th of June. Then we follow that up with Sebring International on the 3rd of July before the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve is our halfway point on the 10th of July for round 4. We then have a 2-week break because we then have a double points round at Le Mans, Circuit de la Sarthe on the 24th of July, where we have daytime qualifying, then we have a daytime start and a nighttime finish, which is really going to put the cat amongst the pigeons. Adria International Raceway, the home of TCR Endurance, is our 6th round on the 31st of July before we head to the hills of Mount Fuji Speedway on the 7th of August, before we head to Macau for our final round, which will crown our inaugural Jura GT3 Challenge champion and the SYNETIQ BMW Series champion. So here we are at Donington Park Grand Prix circuit, just off Castle Donington in Leicestershire, just over 4 kilometres in length, 2.498 miles. And David, it's a very tricky circuit here at Donington Park, wouldn't you agree?
I absolutely would agree. It's tricky enough and a challenging enough circuit at the best of times, Alex. However, I'm just having a look out the virtual window here and noticing an awful lot of spray coming up these cars in practice here. So I think that is maybe going to throw 1 or 2 spanners into the mix here.
I very much agree with you on that front. Now, some of the prizes that are on offer. We've got a prize fund worth over around £2,500, with the Jura GT3 Challenge champion getting the following prizes: a Jura tool cabinet worth over £650, a Team BRIT Racing Academy day in the BMW M240i that has just recently been supplied by our good friends at SYNETIQ, who are supporting Team BRIT in expanding the fleet. That car is around about 470 brake horsepower in performance, and the person that wins that prize will get to have a one-on-one session with Team BRIT at a circuit, obviously when everything is back to normal and once the car is all built up and ready. They will also get a GR detailing single stage correction detail with a 1-year ceramic coating, which will be done by, that's actually one of Andy Tucker's very personal sponsors, as he'll be running that on the number 67 McLaren here at Donington Park. Also for the SYNETIQ BMW Series champion, they'll also get the GRT detailing prize, along with a Team BRIT Academy Day in one of the BMW 118i's. Along with that, we have a couple of other awards. The DAF Driver of the Day award returns, and it is a DAF goodie bag with merchandise and some collectibles. The voting entries will open halfway through the race at the 30-minute mark and will close with 5 minutes until the checkered flag. It is at the eTeam BRIT at teambrit.co.uk email address that you'll see on every single stream that we are permeating this evening. Simply Race, Let's Race, eTeam BRIT on Facebook, Twitch, Periscope, and I think YouTube as well. So quite a few people actually interested on that as well. So, I mean, effectively, we've also got the Cashers GT3 Challenge Championship for the teams. 2 Casher GT K3 pressure washers, brand spanking new. A big thank you to Casher for that. Simply Race themselves will be providing a Simply Race Most Sens Award, which is at their Milton Keynes facility, a half day on their Pro Sim with an instructor. And last but by no means least, the Texaco Fastest Laps, which is spread over both categories, and that's the same with the Simply Race Most Sens. The person with the most fastest laps at the end of this season, this 8 race evening season, will have a signed print of James Hunt in the Hesketh colours, signed by Freddie himself. So we won't have Colin Turkington on the grid here this evening, as he's been busy testing ahead of his return to the British Touring Car Championship to go for his 5th crown. We've got Ed Sibbald and Dan Hyde at Cadan Casual Apex running a pair of Callaway Corvette GT C7R GT3s. We've got Sandro Ballesteros, just 13 years of age. He's in the eTeam BRIT stable on the number 19. Then we've got Ross McGregor, Joey Vrolek from the Netherlands. We've got Adam Karkoszewski from Luna Racing from Poland. Aidan Bro, who was with us in the summer series, he's back again for R Factor 2. Daniel Brewer from IMB Vodball Racing. We've also got Chris Butcher in the 65 BMW. Bradley Brockey's the recently confirmed fully fledged eTeam BRIT driver is with us. Bobby Trundley, Team BRIT. John Monroe. Max Spooner is teaming up with Freddie Hunt, who's back again for more sim racing action in Team Texaco in the Aston Martins, with Andy Tucker from Team BRIT and Chris Butcher from IMB Vodball Racing. We'll have a look now at the SYNETIQ BMW Series entrance when we have a very short moment. But we have, so there we go, BMW M2 CS competition, club sport. Ben Hetherington, Louis Stewart, Christian Kelly, Martin Buchan, Dave Martin and Ryan Elliott are the 7 competitors. So we had a last minute entry, and from Sancho Sim Sports, Matt Richards in the 45 for one round only joins us on the grid. So in many respects, he's going to be completing the 6 McLarens that were allowed to run on the grid due to grid parity. So yeah, I mean, there's going to be a lot of things to talk about, David, over the 30-minute practice session, which is going to get underway very shortly. Drivers are in their respective team chats on our Discord server. But I think very, very shortly, David, it's going to be quite interesting here. Just talk us to us. I mean, we've got like literally a couple of minutes to talk about the track itself. You know, very steeped in tradition. British GT has been here. The Donington, the European Grand Prix in 1993 when Ayrton Senna won the Sega Sonic Trophy. You've had the fact of like the British Superbikes, British touring cars are a regular haunt around here, and then obviously World Superbikes. Just what is it that really captures the imagination here at Donington Park?
For me, Alex, I think it's just the variety that the circuit offers. You know, there's so much there, the twists, the turns, the change in elevation, the wonderful and plentiful opportunities you have for spectator viewing all around the circuit. And for me personally, you know, I think of Donington, I think back to the 90s, and I think back to the Super Tourers era, and you know, watching the cars coming down Hollywood and the long craner curves to the old hairpin, even to modern day for the British Touring Car Championship, that is just an absolute staple, and you just can't imagine them racing anywhere else but Donington Park. So I think that's what it is because there's some real long straights, there's some real chance to build up a lot of momentum, a lot of speed, and yeah, so really thrilling action guaranteed throughout the whole circuit. And I think that's why so many championships, Alex, come back here time after time.
I completely sympathise and agree with you there, because I actually attended a wedding here a couple of years ago and they had the British GTs. It was a Sunday afternoon. The British GTs were doing a rolling start, heading on the Wheatcross Straight down into Redgate for the first time, and it was a race. And I've never had that happen to me before, only at Donington Park a few years ago. So we are very, very shortly going to get things underway. But we're going to try and see if we can get some interviews with some of the drivers over the first few moments. But let's have a look at our competitors first of all, because they're now going to start really, the track's been rubbering in, qualifying is going to be in just under 30 minutes time. But first of all, let's go to a brief video from one of our sponsors.
To be able to compete on a level playing field, we've had to use existing technology to create a set of hand controls that allow us to race on a level playing field. So if you imagine you're going to chicane at 150 miles an hour, our disabled drivers have to be able to go through the chicane at the same speed as an able-bodied driver. That means braking, steering, gear down, on the throttle, off the throttle, on the brake. Now, if we keep losing half a second or a few tenths of a second at every chicane, we might be the best driver on the track, but we can't be competitive. So that was the criteria that I gave the engineers. That if we can't do that, then we can't go racing. Al Locke he's the brains behind our team. He's our race engineer.
We've got the throttle on the right hand side on a paddle behind the steering wheel. mirror image of that is the brake on the left-hand side. Gear up and gear down is on this rocker switch, and on cars that need a clutch, there's a paddle at the bottom.
I tell him what I want and how I want it. He said it's not possible, and I know it's possible because I believe in it. The cost of the hand controls varies from about £5,000 to about £7,500. That's because we've managed to find a manufacturer in Slovenia that does all this specialist engineering.
So it allows fingertip control of every function of the car without the need for pedals, so they can drive it without the use of their legs and still be competitive.
None of this would be possible without our British engineering.
The main thing that inspires me to keep going with Team BRIT is the quest for constant improvement. You know, we've developed a set of hand controls, and we're not a team that's going to rest on their laurels. We're constantly pushing for better and faster developments.
Well, we're underway with free practice here for the opening round of the eTeam BRIT GT3 Challenge in the SYNETIQ BMW Series. Alex Goldschmidt and David Christie, your official commentators for the duration of the 8-race evening calendar. There's Chris Butcher for the IMB VOD Bull Racing Squad. Chris is running the number 65. He's behind one of the Team Texaco Aston Martins, going down the Craner curves through the old hairpin. And that is Max Spooner in the second of the cars. He's running the 63. Freddie Hunt will be running his usual number, 76. But David, we've got a lot of information, as there's a yellow in Sector 1 at the moment. Just looking at some of the competitors, we've got such a myriad and a great mixture of different drivers that have joined us here for not just this round, but also for the full campaign.
Yeah, not just through the drivers themselves, but the teams and the cars that they've chosen as well. We'll touch on the cars first because we did briefly mention that on the pre-warm-up show yesterday. It is almost an even split. In fact, it is an even split between the McLaren 720s, the Aston Martin Vantage GT3s, and then you've got the latecomers in the BMW M6 GT3. So they are as even as you could possibly get. The outliers have to be Team Cadan Casual Apex in the Corvette C7R GT3 car. I said yesterday, I think they're going to be dark horses. Keep an eye out for them, because when everybody's doing the same, you want to look to the folk that are doing something that little bit different. And I want to know what Daniel Hyde and Edward Sibbald have in the tank to have that confidence to make a different pick. So yeah, some wonderful drivers taking part of this. A lot of them are no stranger to either eTeam BRIT racing or to sim racing in general, so lots to talk about. For me, obviously, you know, you've got the big names like Max Spooner, you've got John Munro, Ross McGregor, Bobby Trundley as well. We saw him in the spring summer series on Assetto Corsa Competizione. Who stands out for yourself, Alex?
Well, in some respects, I mean, it's only the opening round of the season, David, but it's just, there's so many. I mean, Chris Butcher and Daniel Brewer at IMB VOD Bull Racing. You know, Chris is a Team Hard Scholarship finalist. He's a Red Bull Gridsters champion. He's also won the Formula Challenge champion at the GPVWC. And that's not exactly a slouch thing to have. There's Ben Hetherington, the first driver to enter the SYNETIQ BMW Series. Now, another Scot that's actually in the field as well. We've got a couple in the GT3 Challenge, but we've also got some in the SYNETIQ BMW Series. Ben runs under the, that's a bit of a cut there on the inside of turn 9 at the Fogarty S's there, I must be completely honest. But he's running under the Green Flag Racing banner. So here's a bit of a replay. Now, I caught this earlier on. This is Freddie Hunt going into Redgate. It's not an easy corner because you've really got to sort of try and trail brake a little bit, I think, into there, David. And it can unsettle the back of the car if you don't get it completely right.
Yeah, there's so many corners like that where you have to brake at exactly the right point because the car is unsettled. It wants to turn one way with the inertia of the weight of the car, especially if you've got it laden with fuel, and it's so easy to make a mistake there, and that just destroys your whole lap.
Okay, so there's Ryan Elliott in the darker shade of orange in the 66 BMW M2 Club Sport competition. He's running under the RSR banner. He's also running in the Virtual Reality Racing Club Touring Car E-Series that starts next week, which has just confirmed their grid. So he's one of the many drivers. So he's getting a little bit of a nice bit of Tokyo drift there, coming through the Melbourne hairpin. And he's actually setting purple sectors in the 66 BMW. He's gone quicker by about a third of 0.3 of a second through both seconds. There's Joey Holleck from the Netherlands. He's with Drillers Esports, just 17 years of age. Hopefully he did actually give us a guide on how to pronounce his surname, so that's really that just shows the testament of the guy. He's been running the Virtual Endurance Championship. He was a Division 3 LMP2 champion back in 2019 and 2020. In Division 3, the first place in LMP2 in the 2020-24 Hours of Le Mans. And he's based in Dordrecht, which is just near Rotterdam. So he's only been racing for a year, and he's already got success, which is, I think, is going to be a dark horse within the GT3s. We've also had a Polish entrant as well in the form of Adam. I'm going to try and get his surname right, which is Kalkuzewski from Luna Jewski from Luna Racing, the 88 BMW M6 GT3. So we have a total of 22 cars on the grid. Matt Richards, really, in a lot of people's eyes, doesn't really need any introduction. He's racing the Virtual Motorsport Online Touring Car UK Championship with Lewis McGlade, who was recently on the commentary team for the Le Mans Virtual 24 Hours, which Matt was actually competing in with Jensen Button, Alex Buncombe and Jan van der Heijden in the 23 Team Rocket Zandshow entry. He's also running in the Mini Challenge UK E-Series and is currently 6th in the standings. They've got their next race at Snetterton tomorrow. There's Bradley Brockies, one of the newly fully fledged eTeam BRIT drivers in the 105 McLaren. He's going to be working with eTeam BRIT on the Racing with Autism International team that has been set up. It comprises of drivers from the UK, which is two of the drivers here. Sandro Ballesteros, who's the youngest driver on our grid, 13 years of age. Bobby Trundley, who's based out of Wokingham, and then also Armani Williams and Austin Riley from the US and Canada. There's Max Spooner, who is in the 63 Aston Martin Vantage GT3.
Yeah, he had a bit of a moment there, Alex, into, I think that was turn one, going backwards into the wall.
That was very, very lucky there. But Ryan Elliott's also had an off-track moment there as well. He's had a moment just off the old hairpin. But I think one of the things we need to talk about here is, because this is going to be a dual-file rolling start, David, but we're going to have both cars, both car classes actually go at the same time for 1 hour of racing. I mean, that's going to be quite interesting when you look at the disparity on lap times.
It certainly is. You're looking, I would imagine that's going to be about 10 seconds between the difference, if not about 13 seconds between the BMWs and the fastest GT3 cars. So you're going to find that they're going to get caught up in about, I would imagine, 10 to 15 laps. The thing is that what we've seen so far, the BMW drivers seem to be very, very aware of their mirrors. They seem to be very aware of the GT3 cars coming up. But that's going to throw a massive spanner in the works when you come up to that lap traffic if you are fighting 2 or 3 other GT3 cars yourself, and then you've got to think about traffic as well.
Right, here's the moment you were talking about. Yes, completely sideways, nearly beaching it in the gravel there. And that just shows how much drivers are pushing. And back end hits the wall there. But that could have been a lot worse.
I think we should maybe call that doing a spooner into turn one.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. There's Dave Martin in the bright yellow number 40. He's from No Nonsense Racing. And also we've got some bits and pieces, information on the drivers there as well. Yeah, so he's been sim racing for nearly 10 years, mainly on iRacing, and now he's racing single-seaters. He's been competing in the AOR F3 League. He finished 8th overall last season, and his team finished 3rd overall. But in real life, he's also racing the 750 Motor Club Low Cost Championship this year. Louis Stewart, who's another young driver that we've got. He's just 16 years of age. It's his first online R-Factor League, but he's spent about 100 hours time over 3 years, and he's just 16 years of age. Here's the youngest driver on the grid, Sandro Ballesteros, based out of Rothschild. He's a very, very good young man. He's very, very good at what he does. He's running in junior Rotax amongst other categories, so he's a real-life karter, but he also has been training hard, and he's one of the 4 drivers that will go to the iRacing 24 Hours of Le Mans tomorrow evening with Armani, Austin and Bobby in the 66 BMW M8 GTE. But already the times are just looking quite interesting. Some drivers are keeping it nice and smooth, as we can see from Sandro going through Hollywood, through the Craner curves, down towards the old hairpin. I mean, even just at that age, David, he's showing quite good composure. You know, using the fine sort of clean and concise movements there, isn't he?
I think the thing with the younger drivers as well, Alex, and we'll find this as time goes on with sim racing, is that the younger drivers haven't had that time to develop the real life bad habits that a lot of the drivers actually end up having. They try and take into the simulator, and it will not work for them. So you'll find some of these younger drivers quite often have a little bit of advantage because they're sort of fresh-eyed and ready to learn new things, whereas that kind of explains a lot of what we see. I mean, we see Freddie Hunt. We saw it in the Assetto Corsa Competition series. He was a very, very quick driver, and we see him down in the 131s. Now watch what will happen over the next 10 minutes. You'll see that lap time come down incredibly, and I've got no doubt that we'll see Freddie Hunt in the 127s. But it's been fascinating with the resurgence of sim racing, Alex, this year, to see the difference between the young, the sort of the new team, as we would call it up here in Scotland, and the older generation.
Very true. Here's Christian Kelly running in the number 14 light orange colour. So we've had drivers for the SYNETIQ BMW series. They have a bespoke livery that has been created by Max Spooner himself. He spent a lot of time on that, but we're using solid colours. So I think along with the GT3 Challenge, we've got quite a lot of colour, especially with someone we both know as well, Martin Buchan, who's racing in the SMRC iRacing Esports Summer Championship, which I think you and I are both. And speaking of the man himself, there he is in the number 35. That's a bright colour to make sure you stand out amongst the crowd, isn't it?
It's yes, it's very bold. I'll give him that. But I am a massive GT3 fan. I absolutely love GT3 racing, but I love the look of these BMW M2 CS cars. They are just stunning, and I think these individual unique liveries that eTeam BRIT have assigned to them are going to make our jobs a heck of a lot easier, Alex.
Yeah, I mean the M2 CS Club Sport versions are actually the higher brake horsepower, as Martin goes a bit wide coming through the old hairpin, and that's one of the Team Texaco cars. That's Freddie Hunt, who keeps it planted around the outside going up the hill into Franz Curve at turn 6 before heading into McLean's. But yeah, it's a great car. But one of the biggest things that we have to remember here is that whoever wins the SYNETIQ BMW series has to automatically get promoted to the GT3 Challenge, as there's Daniel Hyde going side by side with the number 40 of Dave Martin, and right up behind there is either an eTeam BRIT or a Team BRIT car there. So Dan Hyde, I think, you know, when you hear a Corvette, you know it's a Corvette, as the saying goes.
Yeah, and those things have a wonderful, wonderful charm to them. I'm a big sucker for the Corvette, and like say, I'm a little bit surprised that we only have 2 out here, since we saw the great success that they had at the 24 hours, the virtual 24 hours of Le Mans last weekend. But yeah, I do wonder what those 2 are going to do, because those 2 are the outliers right now, being the only 2 Corvettes in this championship.
There is Freddie Hunt, son of the late James Hunt, who we celebrated the 27th anniversary of his passing this past Monday, running in the number 76. That is obviously the year when James won his Formula One World Championship, battling away with the likes of Niki Lauda et al., running with the number 11. That's how good my memory stretches back, even though I wasn't born that year. I was born the year after, which was a bit of a shame, but hey-ho, it is what it is. But Freddie at the moment, He's currently running 14th in the times side of things, as we are fast approaching the end of the, well, I think we're over the halfway part of this half-hour practice session. Format is as follows: half-hour practice session, half-hour qualification session, and then we go into racing for 1 hour. Minimum mandatory pit stop of 30 seconds, where the pit stop window will open with 20 minutes after the lights go out and we go racing, and then 20 minutes before the checkered flag falls is when we then close the pit stop window.
I've got to say, Alex, you've thoroughly impressed me with your pre-birth knowledge there. That was awesome stuff, buddy.
I do try to please, David. I do try to please. But then we've, we were talking in the preview show last night, obviously, about some of the drivers. I mean, one of the drivers who is just 0.7 off of Chris Butcher, who is at the top of the timesheets, and he's running in the 125s. 125.620 for Chris Butcher, followed by Daniel Brewer. So at the moment, it is an IMB Vodbull Racing M6 1-2, followed by Matt Richards from Zancho Simsport. He's running into the 45 for one race, and then he goes to 44 for next time out at round 2 at Zandvoort, followed by Bobby Trundley, who's going through Redgate, and he's only 0.7 off. A little bit wide there. 2 wheels on the grass from Bobby on the left-hand side as he goes through Hollywood, down the Craners. John Monroe is only 3/1000ths of a second slower than Bobby, as he loses it going through down at the bottom of the hill. But at least it's a good thing he's doing that now, isn't it, David, rather than during qualifying?
Absolutely. What you'll find a lot of the drivers doing, just putting the final touches to the setups that they've got on these cars, because obviously you'll want to tailor the car for each track just to make sure you can get that extra tenth out of it. The other thing to remember is the track is always evolving, so maybe where you could brake there a lap before, you can eke out maybe a couple of extra yards on the braking point the next lap round.
So there is our second place driver in terms of free practice, Daniel Brewer in the 91. I'm loving some of these liveries that are coming through as well. Some of them very, very striking indeed. I mean, especially with Freddie's livery in the Team Texaco, is one of them actually has just gone off and hit the wall, I think, just on the pit lane entrance. But there's so many great liveries, aren't there, here?
There certainly is. I'm watching Max Spooner as well, having a bit of a wild moment down the curves there, but he comes to rest in the gravel trap. And yeah, there are, and that's what makes it so exciting for me, is that there is as much happens, Alex, off the track in terms of preparation. So these guys and girls have to spend physical time in Photoshop or get somebody to do it for them and actually do these liveries, do these paint schemes for them, with the exception of the SYNETIQ BMWs. But yeah, it's wonderful to see the uniqueness and putting their own individual stamp on these liveries.
And speaking of Freddie Hunt, I was mentioning as he was the one that went into the wall. Now that's a bit of a hefty hit. Thank goodness it's sim racing only, because that would have been one heck of a repair bill.
It certainly would. Just seeing as well, Max Spooner. Now we've seen Max Spooner as another one who does have a lot of both sim pace and real life pace, and he's down there with Freddie as well, 130.615. So it just shows how much of a handful, and we saw that in the introduction video, or we will see it in the introduction video in a second about the track guide, just how lively these cars are. It looks like a relatively straightforward corner, but the bumps, the undulations in this Donington circuit will unsettle these cars and make it very, very tricky.
Yeah, we'll go to that in about a couple of minutes' time. But there's Joe Frolick. There's Ross McGregor, a fellow countryman to David, running under the Marlowe Watch Company Racing banner. Both him and John Monroe. Ross in the number 3 Aston, John in the number 33. Ross is actually the slightly slower of the two in P7, and John, as I said earlier, well, Bobby Trundley has actually improved, 0.660 off of Chris Butcher. But that's a quite nice little photo there of Ross. I do know that he likes his cycling. That's one of the ways to keep fit in some respects. Wouldn't you agree, David?
In these lockdown conditions, absolutely. You've got, obviously you can go for a little ride about the countryside or around the city or whatever. But I see even sim cycling is getting a massive boost in popularity with things like Zwift and other training companion apps. That's the other thing that we've really seen an effort on as well, is how seriously sim racing has been taken in terms of nutrition, in terms of fitness, in terms of mental health. It's just come on unbelievable strides in the past 6 months, and how seriously Ross McGregor and John Munro take this. And make no mistake, they love what they do. Both myself and my teammate Keir Riley, we spend a lot of time in championships with John Munro and Ross McGregor, and it's frustrating just how fast they are, but they are the most lovely, wonderful and friendly guys you could ever actually have the pleasure of racing against.
Very much the case. Well, as Ryan Elliott now heads into Redgate, let's have a look at a hot lap here at Donington Park. 2.498 miles and a lot of commitment as well. Donington Park, 2.5 miles on the McLaren 720S GT3, accelerating towards Redgate, hitting the brakes at 217 kph before hitting the apex of Redgate. That's turn 1, second gear, 110 kph. Down through Hollywood, towards the right-hand side of the circuit we go. Exiting the corner in fourth gear, 210 kph, through Craners at over 225 kilometers an hour before going on the brakes into the old hairpin. Fourth gear, 150 on the apex as we go up the hill through Starkey's Bridge in turn 5, pulling fifth gear as we head to Schwanz Curve in turn 6 before putting on the anchors, heading into McLean's at turn 7, third gear, 120 kph. Little slight correction there on the short upshift towards Coppice, pulling fourth, then down to third, 130 on the apex. Starkey's Straight then leads us towards the Fogarty S's, and you can just see there's quite a significant yomp here, and we'll go over it at around 220 kilometers an hour in fourth gear before braking from fifth down to second, 90 kilometers an hour through the Fogarty S's, turns 9 and 10 as the McLaren accelerates out of the corner, heading towards the infamous Melbourne hairpin, braking from fourth gear, 203 kilometers an hour to 60 kph all the way down the gearbox to first gear, slowest part of the circuit. One more turn to go and you've got to get it right here at Goddard's. Turn 12, down to first gear again, this time 75 kilometers per hour on the apex. You pull second, third, and then to fourth as you end up going across the line in a 131.9. Louis Stewart's having problems. He's just gone into technical help on that front. He can't access the server. He's having some connection issues. Right, so we return to Donington Park, just fractionally ahead of qualification. David, the next 30 minutes are really going to set... Yeah, so over the next 30 minutes, David, we're going to see a lot of track evolution. We're going to see a lot of people pushing the envelope and the sheer limit of adhesion over the next 30 minutes. So in many respects, we just bear with us just a moment. I mean, I'm going to keep going as much as I can. I know that David might have some issues with some audio, so bear with us just a moment. But 30 minutes, it's pretty much the case of the drivers will look to get out on circuit as quickly as they can and try and put in a benchmark, and then also trying to put in that lap together, that perfect lap. But no lap in motorsport when it comes to qualification is ever perfect, let alone the race. And that's where the drivers are really going to have to sort of tweak the setups the best that they can, depending on the weather conditions, depending on how the car's handling, what the driver's feeling, how the car's reacting to their inputs through brake, throttle, and all that kind of stuff as well. So, you know, 2.5 miles isn't exactly that much asphalt to try and get the perfect lap in. But if you nail it right, like Matt Richards is doing at the moment, who's doing just under a 1:26, it's a pretty good lap time.
The thing with it, Alex, as well, is that on Redgate, Hollywood and Craner curves, that's the first 3 to 4 corners. It's such an easy way to destroy your entire lap before it's even started. So you really have to get through those 4 corners, and then you set yourself up. You know, once you're past Coppice, that's the sort of, then you can knuckle down and know whether or not you're on a really good lap or not.
So qualifying will start off the points accumulation over the next 8 rounds, which will start from here at Donington Park. So pole position in both classes will be a point for that driver. Now, even if the driver gets penalised post-qualification, they still hold the point because they have set that fastest lap time. There is also quite a lot of bragging rights going into Zandvoort next week, David, where if they get what they call the Grand Chelem, where you get pole position, fastest lap, and a race victory in the GT3 Challenge, you're going to have a pretty good motivator to keep that going into Zandvoort in the Netherlands next Friday evening.
Listen, if you get the Triple Crown on the first race, we're going to have to expand the server to fit their ego in the door, because that is a heck of a way to start your championship, and it could very well happen.
Right, we're now heading into qualification. 30 minutes now start ticking down on the timer. And let's go for it. So here we are with quite a few of the drivers coming out. So we've got one issue for Louis Stewart, who is having some connection issues. Hopefully we can get him back for qualifying in the race. You know, these people have been working hard behind the scenes at Simply Race. A big thank you to them, for Mike Yao and Grant Lyman, that have been really putting in a Herculean effort to help us get this championship running, and on such a great platform as well. Bit of an off-track moment there, and that looks to be, I think, possibly Aidan Bro that might have just gone off at the old hairpin there, David. But here's Andy Tucker, from Newport in South Wales. And the number 67 now, he has shown some great comebacks through the field in the summer series that we held not too long ago, which you were actually a driver in. What is it now like to be on the other side of the fence, being in the commentary box, which you normally do sort of occupy with the SMRC?
I can't tell you how frustrating it is, actually, because on the one hand, obviously I love the sound of my own voice. There's no two ways about it, Alex, and I love sharing the passion about the races. But given the overwhelming way in which I've thrown myself into sim racing in the past 6 months, I really want to be out there. These guys are incredible fun to race against. They're firm but fair. In the case of Bobby Trundley, maybe a little bit more firm than others, but yeah, it's great fun. You're always guaranteed a great laugh and some high octane thrills with these guys.
Right, initial bank laps coming in, and at the top of that is the number 65 of IMB Vodball Racing's Chris Butcher, followed by the Marlow duo of John Munro and Ross McGregor. Ed Sibbald in the which should be the number 7 Canaan Casual Apex, as Dan Hyde goes he was P6, he's now showing in P12 at the moment, but just waiting for the timing to update. He goes P7 as Joey Vrolijk from the Netherlands in the number 22 goes up into P7. Bradley Brockie's P9. Ryan Elliott in the 66 BMW M2 goes P12. So there is Dan Hyde going up the hill. So Butcher is leading the way, David. Quite interesting how Ryan Elliott has done a really good job, as has Dave Martin. And they're 11th and 12th overall, but first and second in the overall side of things.
Setting itself up very, very nicely, because of course there's 25 minutes left to go, so it's literally just started. But what you'll see is cars desperately trying to get what you just called out there, the banker laps in, those laps that if all else fails and everything else goes wrong, they've got those laps to fall back on. So the BMWs, obviously there's not going to be too much to split them up, but with the GT3s I think you'll see perhaps a second to a second and a half.
And as we say that, Matt Richards in the 45 McLaren 720 GT3 goes top of the timesheets here in qualifying, with the first 5 minutes almost completed as Dan Hyde heads into Redgate. Puts in that was a slightly slower lap. There's John Munro pulling to the side, or just looking to get some track position there. At the moment, Christian Kelly, who actually owns an M2 competition in real life, he's done quite a lot of work. He's been racing with Cam Sport. He's done a lot with the Simply Race Endurance Series. So he's no slouch either. And to have the opportunity to get into a level playing field, that's really going to show the case the driver's skill, isn't it?
Absolutely is. And like you said, because it's the start of the session, or the start of the season as well, it really gives us a great canvas in which to see how these drivers are going to perform, and gives us an idea of what is going to happen throughout this season. We talked about a little bit about it on the pre-show as well, and what fascinates me is I want to see how much team play and team dynamics are going to play a part through this season, especially in this first race.
Yes, very much the case. Live timing is available if you are watching one of the respective streams. As we've got a yellow in Sector 1, that will be eTeamBrit.liveracers.com, and that will take you straight away to the live timing. That will give you the full live timing. That will also give you the top 3 best laps, and also give you a circuit tracker as well. So there is Ed Sibbald in the number 7 Corvette. So it was originally a very Chrome-esque Aston Martin, but it's now back to a big thanks to Grant and Mike from Simply Race for making this happen and just trying to get things sorted. They're trying to get these things done as we can, and I'm hoping that we have Louis Stewart in. 23 minutes and 10 seconds. Matt Richards leads the GT3 class with Martin Buchan in the 35 bright pink BMW M2 CS, now on a 1 minute 37.9.
Just to jump in very quickly, Alex, right, we were talking about team dynamics. Have a look at John Munro here and Ross McGregor, the two Marlow Watch Company cars. They have been side by side, hooking in each other's draft and taking turns about through qualifying. This is what team racing is all about. These two working very, very well. I'd be interested to see if we've got any other teammates doing the same.
Yeah, I think you'll have a different type of team strategy. I mean, the likes of Ed Sibbald and Dan Hyde at Ganaan Casual Apex. You'll obviously have Daniel Brew and Chris Butcher at IMB Vodbull Racing. The Team Brit and eTeam BRIT guys as well. So that there's going to be a lot of discussion in terms of what they're going to do, as Ross McGregor actually puts in a personal best through Sector 1, gets a bit squirrely coming through McLean's, set yellow in Sector 1 yet again. 22 minutes on the clock, and as I said earlier, there's going to be a point for pole position in this. So Ross McGregor again sets a personal best in sector number 2 as he goes through the Fogarty S's and then down towards the Melbourne hairpin. Slowest corner on the circuit as per our track guide. So all the way down the gearbox down to first gear, around about 60-65 kph coming out of Goddard's. Trying to wrestle with the back end of the car there was Ross McGregor. Okajewski now up into P8 ahead of Andy Tucker and Joey Vrolijk in the Netherlands. But in many respects actually make that 11th position for the Dutch driver. There's John Munro from the Marlow Watch Company Racing.
So with less than 10 minutes to go, Alex, with less than 10 minutes gone in the qualifying session, that's just 2 seconds between the top 11 cars, and that's going to come down very quickly as we see contact there between John Munro and one of the BMWs. I couldn't quite see who that was, but yeah, John Munro clipped one of the BMWs, and that's going to obviously ruin their qualifying lap as well.
Yeah, not quite what you want on a qualification lap, so...
I think I jinxed it, didn't I, saying the BMW drivers were very good at the looking in the mirrors.
Commentators curse already, and that's one each, 1-1. And that was Ben Hetherington in front as well, so John's had to avoid, and Ben's gone off track as a result of that. So some of the drivers deciding to, they can use escape during qualification, but every driver at the end of this race, if they make the checkered flag, they have to do a cool down lap as part of the regulations here. But you can just see that some drivers will be looking at how they've been doing. There's one of the Team Texaco Astons going off, and that is Max Spooner, who set a personal best in sector number 1, and that's cost him about 4 seconds there, David, in sector 2.
And it's so easy to do that, Alex. We've said that multiple times now, as we see quite a few of the drivers heading into pit lane to regroup, refresh, and maybe just try things again there. You've got at least, what's that, about 6-7 cars into a pit lane. And the clever thing to do is just take your time. You've got 20 minutes left to get some qualifying laps in, find a clear bit of the track, and just keep churning those laps out.
Yes, very much the case. Again, now another yellow, this time in sector 2. Now I know for a fact that both Freddie and Max are actually down in the Team BRIT workshop down in the south of the country, running side by side. Literally, not just on the circuit. So Ed Sibbald currently running P9 according to the main timing screen. Obviously, there's a slight difference with it showing up as an unknown, but the timing has been changed to reflect that. But I mean, David, just looking at the times between Matt Richards from Sancho Simsport in the 45 and then Martin Buchan in the 35 BMW, it's not as far as possibly some people in the grid might have expected.
And that is exactly the point. It makes it for a very, very interesting race. There is obviously quite a large disparity on paper between the GT3 and the M2 Club Sport. But again, once you're in traffic, once you're fighting these battles, both cars are going to be considerably slower than their qualifying pace. So the M2 it isn't a slouch, and I think we're going to get some very, very interesting racing.
Very much the case. So the standings at the moment in qualification between the M2 Club Sports that we've got on the circuit at the moment. Martin Buchan leads on a 1 minute 37.901, and he's just fractionally ahead of Christian Kelly in the number 14, 1 minute 38.063, and then a further nigh on 6/10 back to Ryan Elliott in the 66 with Dave Martin on a 1 minute 38.945. Ben Hetherington, who is a Powerball wheelchair football player for Scotland as well. He's down in 5th place, but obviously Louis Stewart, to register a time, has got to be on the circuit probably with a couple of minutes or so to get a couple of laps in, because if they're running in the 140s, if he's got about 2.5 to 3 minutes to go, he'll be able to have an opportunity to set at least one lap and put himself on the grid for the race itself. Otherwise, he starts right from the very back. You can just see how much Martin Buchan's pushing, can't you, David?
Absolutely, and why not? I mean, now we're coming to the tail end of the qualifying here, and I think he's ruined his lap there. 16.5 minutes left to go, and he pulls out of doing that lap. He's going to have to regroup and try again, but certainly he's leading the way by about 0.5 of a second in the BMWs right now.
Yep, here's Matt Richards in the 45 McLaren. And he is over 0.4 of a second quicker than Chris Butcher in the hunt for pole position. And he's just going up the hill towards Starkeys, then to Schwanz curve, up through McLean's in the short run up to Coppice. So it'll be up to third, down to up to fourth, down to third. I nearly got my numbers mixed out there, didn't I? Just be bad if I get my words mixed around, which does sometimes happen on occasion. But you can see just one of the BMWs, that looks to be one of the IMB cars just behind, as Matt comes through the Fogarty S's. Yellow in sector 1 showing up again, and you can just see that even if you take too much curb through turn 10, David, it can really unsettle the car, can't it?
We saw that actually on the hot lap. So that was the hot lap that I managed to somehow do that made me look like I had any idea what I was doing, but it's exactly the point. I think it was actually earlier in the circuit, but there are so many curbs and there are so many little depressions in the circuit that if you get the car into that, it unbalances it. The car's already unbalanced anyway because it's turning a corner, and then it becomes completely unpredictable, and you start trying to overcorrect the car, and that's when bad things really do start to happen. But Matt Richards, I mean, we do need to take a minute out as we see Bobby Trundley dropping 125s as well. So Bobby Trundley decides to join the party there. But Matt Richards, it's scandalous pace with 14.5 minutes to go. There's no one that looks really near him right now.
Yeah, Bobby Trundley gets personal best in sector 1, slightly off by just 37 thousandths of a second in sector 2. So he's now negotiated his way through the Fogarty S's down towards the Melbourne hairpin. His best so far is a 1 minute 25.897, and that is only 18 thousandths slower than Chris Butcher from IMB Vodball Racing. So Dave Martin improves on sector 2 and improves, and that's a personal best. But that gets him closer to Ryan Elliott, but still keeps him in P4 in the M2 CS category. Let's see, I'll keep an eye on the timesheets, but as he goes through the Craner curves, gets a little bit of a tank slapper through the old hairpin. That's Ed Sybil just up behind him. Very good spatial awareness from the pair of them, so Dave Martin knew to keep it on the apex and give enough room for Ed Sybil to come past. There's another IMB car just behind. But that. So Martin doesn't improve on this first sector. He's about half a second down. Now goes over the Yomp going down Starkeys. Here's Ben Hetherington, and he's had a massive moment in sector 2. And he's about 8.8 seconds down from where his best sector time in sector 2 has actually been. David, whereabouts did that actually happen?
So that was at Coppice, where he went around and around and around the corner, Alex.
Was he spinning right round, baby, right round? Okay, here we go. Now that's when the back end just looks. That's coming out of Coppice onto Starkey Straight, and he's held that 360 pretty well. And considering the fact he's actually using a joypad, I believe. So
yeah, that is impressive. Although when the back end steps out on you like that, that's already the time to phone up the insurance company and say this is going to be a big one.
Yeah, that was a doozy, as I think they probably say. So, but Ryan Elliott now back on an outlap. Just under 12 minutes to go. Matt Richards still leads qualifying for round 1 here of the eTeam BRIT GT3 Challenge. And also for Martin Buchan in the BMW or SYNETIQ BMW series. Ryan Elliott going through the old hairpin. He's done a best. So again, I think we've had David. I think have we had another moment for one of the other GT3 drivers now?
Yeah, I think they're starting to get a little bit over exuberant. Aiden Brow. I'm just double checking where that was on the track that he did that. I think that was after the old. But yeah, a big moment, and there was another car actually that went off behind him, I think possibly in sympathy, but the car reversing back in towards the barrier there.
So he's lost it at the end of McLean's. It snapped to the left, and he's been sent into a tailspin, and there's one of the Cadan Corvettes just coming through the corner. So that was a 180 for Aidan Bro, and then the Corvette does the same in sympathy. And then Bro hits the wall on the inside of Coppice. So Max Spooner wrestling with the back end of the number 63 Aston Martin. Currently P15 overall. And there is damage on these cars. I think it's been set to around 50%, so at least some incidents, if it's a slight contretemps, then it won't cause them to instantly DNF from the race. To be classified, you need to have finished at least 75% of the race time distance or cross the start-finish line at the end of 1 hour. And that's quite crucial, David, because all these drivers, even though we haven't got a capacity grid, to have over a healthy grid of over 20 cars here at Donington Park is pretty good for our first outing.
It's a fantastic result, and it's only going to grow, because I think what we're going to see is some incredible multi-class racing tonight from the GT3s and the SYNETIQ BMWs, and I think we only have to look at the timing screens to see that now. We've got 8 cars now within 1 second of your leading GT3, and then you've got 5 cars within half a second or just over half a second. Matt Richards, Daniel Brewer, Chris Butcher now joining the 125s as well. Bobby Trundley and John Munro brings it down to a 126 flat. So that pace is very much there, and all through the field we're going to see these little battles.
That was a big off for those watching at the screen at home as Max Spooner goes off the track again for Bobby Trundley. He lost it coming through the old hairpin, and it went spinning, and the back end just speared into the barriers and literally ripped the rear wing asunder. And Bobby again having another moment there and going into the path of one of the BMWs, but that was a nice control from Bobby Trundley. He's a 5-time Daytona D-Max champion. I actually commentated on him back in 2017, and he's a very, very much mature young man, as apparently when I used to speak to him back in 2017, but even then he's still a character, but he's really come alive as a real-life racing driver. Dan Hyde currently rounding out the top 12, but Ed Sibbald, even though he's showing on the screens, now here's another replay, That's through Redgate, I think, isn't it? And he's just lost it again. So that I think there was quite a lot of commitment there, but a bit too much on the adhesion side of things for it to break traction, wouldn't you say there, David?
Absolutely would, and this is the crunch time now. 8 minutes left to go in qualifying, Alex. This is where you've done your bankers. It's now time for the Hail Mary, time to throw 2 laps of fuel in the car and just see what sort of pace you can get out of it.
So in other words, throw caution to the wind.
Yes, that is exactly what I would say.
I'm glad that we're on the same page, my friend. Daniel Brewer is the leading IMB Vodbull Racing BMW M6. He's just fractionally ahead of his teammate, and it's quite close between the pair of them because it's 0.325 between Richards and Brewer for first and second, and then Chris Butcher is only 35 thousandths slower than his teammate. You can see that they've really dialed the cars in now, David, and it's really coming to show some sort of fruition here, and these guys are no slouches either.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm able to. I've got the luxury of flicking through the different cameras there. Bobby Trundley, you might want to go and have a little look at the replay of that because Bobby Trundley has just went airborne at one of the corners there. But yeah, it's what we said there. It's about pushing the car to get as much as you possibly can out of it, but you're actually going to hit a limit. You're going to hit the limit of your own natural ability, and once you start driving past that, that's when the accidents start to happen. So we're seeing these guys now here, in a sim sense at least, pushing it as far as they possibly can without making too many mistakes.
Right, so here's the moment with Bobby Trundley. He's gone through Craners, and that's off the old hairpin, backwards again, and that's rolled the car after it's hit the wall. So 2 incidents within a matter of minutes for Bobby Trundley. That's going to knock his confidence, but he's got to really pick himself up and go for it, hasn't he?
Well, that's exactly the point I was making. This is where you're going to see the accidents more frequently happening because guys are pushing that little bit more than they normally would, and it's whether or not that risk is worth the reward. With the fact that you can escape back to the pits, absolutely, I would say you just go for it.
There's Freddie Hunt, currently in 16th position at the moment.
That actually brings up a great point. That was the original thing I wanted to say about 5 minutes ago. We've been obviously tracking Freddie Hunt through the practice session, through qualifying. He was doing 132s consistently. He's now brought that down to a 130.2. So again, this is exactly what I was saying about these drivers. They can just throw out the laps and bring these lap times tumbling down. So while he's about a second and a half off of Sandro Ballesteros, I think in the race he will be right in the mix and up for contention of a top 10 place.
Yes, JWJJM Sim Racing on YouTube says, why is Ed Sibbald in a class of his own? We're not too sure why, but the thing is that on the timing screens that we've got being shown to us via Simply Race, it's showing him currently in 7th position. So I've just had a message from Bobby Trundley, funnily enough. He's got no force feedback, hence why the incidents are quite hefty.
Oh no, he maybe broke it back on the Assetto Corsa Competizione round that I was with him at Imola, where Monza rather.
Monza, yes.
Where he went hurtling on the grass into turn 1, no brakes, and I can imagine that would have shaken up his force feedback quite considerably.
Well, considering in fact you had the same moments about a lap later in sympathy.
Yeah, I was crowing over it on voice chat as well, like yeah, and then a lap later it's like oops.
Yes, a big oops. But it is what it is. Sandro Ballesteros running in the 1:28.7s is the 13-year-old from Rochdale. One of the other prizes that is up for grabs is a bottle of Copperfield London Dry Gin for the GT3 race winner. And that is for anyone that is over 18 years of age. If it is a driver that is under said age, then that will go to their parents. I think that's the least we can do in these difficult times amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. 3 minutes and 39 seconds to go. David, it's still looking really close.
Yeah,
I mean, the top five.
Sorry.
Top 5.5 tenths of a second as one of the Team Texaco Astons goes spinning. Wonder who that was.
And that's Max Spinner.
Also, Max having his fair fair share of dramas. But yeah, it's now put up or shut up, isn't it?
It certainly is. Just watching Daniel Hyde going down the inside of Freddie Hunt there, coming up towards the final corner. This is it. We've got 3 minutes left now and potentially 3 laps as we see Freddie Hunt getting so close, at least on my screen anyway, to Daniel Hyde, the back end of that Corvette on the exit of the final turn there. So this is it. This is now, as you said, put up or shut up. This is where all the chips come flying down, and we see where the dice is going to land.
Big spin for Max Spooner coming out of the old hairpin, 360, and he controls it nicely, rejoins safely as well. Ryan Elliott now up into P3 in the classification for the BMW M2 CS, and he's just put in a 1 minute 38.102. And David, what's more impressive, he's 39 thousandths behind Christian Kelly.
Yeah, we said this about the in the pre-show on Thursday. The BMWs, for my money, I think are going to be the closest series by a country mile. The intense action in the pack racing we're going to get from the BMW M2 CS Club Sports are going to be off the hook. We're going to have wonderful action from the GT3s, absolutely no mistaking about that. But yeah, the BMWs, I've got a little bit of a thing for the BMWs. I don't know if you've been able to tell so far.
That's very true. I mean, everyone has their own preference. I mean, I think both classes are really good to have. Louis Stewart, unfortunately, might not be able to partake in the first round, but fingers crossed that he is able to join us, I hope, for the race. I mean, we've got 90 seconds of qualification left. Christian Kelly, a real-life BMW M2 competition driver, flashing the lights at Freddie Hunt on his qualifying lap. Who would have thought we'd be calling that one?
It's only sim racing where you can get that sort of experience. I mean, the son of James Hunt, and you're in a BMW flashing your lights at him. That's something to tell the grandkids, isn't it?
Yeah, that's definitely something to write about. Plus also the fact he's gone up. He's put a personal best in for Sector 1. Sector 2 he's down by nearly a tenth and a half. The last 60 seconds to go here in qualification. Martin Buchan back on an out lap. So he's going to come through Goddard's, and now he's going to get a chance to put, hopefully, what is the best lap he possibly can. I mean, we both know, David, that the perfect lap is something that every racing driver strives for in qualification.
It certainly is, and the thing is that perfect lap is so difficult to achieve when you're on your own by yourself, let alone when you've got GT3 cars breathing down your neck if you're in one of the SYNETIQ BMWs, or if you're in one of the GT3 cars, you've got cars on their slow lap, you've got cars on their out lap, you've got the BMWs to deal with as well. So, you know, the perfect lap is very, very rare, and if they can get it, they absolutely need to seize that with both hands.
Right, timer is about to expire. That is it. Checkered flag is out for qualification, as looks like Joy Frolic and Chris Butcher has jumped into the pits. Martin Buchan, in the meantime, 26 thousandths up on Sector 1 as he goes towards the on the Sarkey straight towards the Fogarty S's. Up again by a mere fraction, 36 thousandths on this lap. So that is an improvement of 62 thousandths off of his best lap of a 1 minute 37.632. He now comes through the Melbourne hairpin for what's going to be the final time in qualification. Really well sewn up by Martin in the 35 BMW M2 competition CS Club Sport as he goes through Goddard's round the final apex, drifts it as far wide as he dare. He's now going to come across the line. Let's see. Looks to be possible improvements. And it isn't. He loses nearly 3/10 in the final sector. But that is it for qualification here at Donington Park for round 1. And let's have a look at the results. So Matt Richards from Sancho Simsport in the number 45 is your pole sitter for race 1 of the 8-race calendar here at Donington Park. Chris Butcher in the number 65 from IMB Vod Bull Racing is second ahead of Daniel Brewer, with Bobby Trundley in 4th place. John Munro, and then it will be Ross McGregor, Aidan Bro, Adam Kokoszewski, Joey Hollock and Andy Tucker. Then we've also got Dan Hyde, Bradley Brockies, Max Spooner, Sandro Ballesteros and Freddie Hunt. Now, I have noticed that Ed Sibbald was a little bit higher up the order, around about P6. Martin Buchan takes pole in the M2s ahead of Ryan Elliott, Christian Kelly, Dave Martin and Ben Hetherington. So we will have 21 cars due to go into battle very, very shortly, as we will have a formation lap.
What a great lap that was from Chris Butcher there, to get just 1/10 of a second away from Matt Richards there. We saw him sneaking that in towards the end of qualifying, Alex, so a really, really good effort for him. And that's what, eight cars within 1 second of each other.
Pretty convincing that how close it was. Looks like Louis Stewart is not going to be joining us, unfortunately, so we hope to see him back at Circuit Zandvoort in the Netherlands, which will be Joe Follock's home track next week. So it's Buchan from Elliott, Kelly, Martin and Hetherington. That is your lineup for the SYNETIQ BMW Series opening round. Matt Richards and Chris Butcher will be on the front row for the GT3s, with Daniel Brewer and Bobby Trundley on row number 2. But there's 3 different teams represented and 2 different manufacturers in the form of both McLaren and BMW, with the quickest of the Astons coming from John Munro, followed quickly by Ross McGregor, and that's really good to see that. So very soon we will get underway with our first of 8 rounds of the 2020 eTeam BRIT GT3 Challenge and the SYNETIQ BMW Series. A big thank you to Jura, Kausha, Texaco, amongst the whole GR Detailing, amongst the whole Simply Race as well, amongst the whole amount of sponsors of both of the Team BRIT, our main operation, which goes racing and always adapts. They believe to achieve, as the hashtag is used both through eTeam BRIT and Team BRIT as well. You can see all the sponsors being showcased on the bottom left-hand corner of your screens. But David, we're about to go racing for 60 minutes. Just give me some thoughts ahead of what you might be expecting. I know you've been detailing little tidbits here and there, but what are your thoughts ahead of going into round 1?
So round 1 is going to shape itself up quite nicely. What we can expect from the first 10-15 minutes, I think we're going to see some very reserved action, or I'd like to hope we're going to see some reserved action. It's a 60-minute race. You cannot win it on the first lap. So you do really, really need to pace themselves out well and not get themselves into silly situations. And that's so easy to do with this circuit, Alex. We've seen it time and time again from various different championships, especially at things like Craner Curves, at the Old Hairpin, and then around at Coppice as well. So what I'm hoping we see is some very, very measured overtaking manoeuvres. What I think we're going to see is going down into Hollywood and Craner Curves, 4 or 5 cars are going to get themselves into a lot of trouble and potentially ruin the race on the first couple of laps. The remainder are then going to fight it out over the 60 minutes. The BMWs, however, I think we're going to focus quite a lot on that. I think they're going to be very, very close. I think you're going to have, up until about maybe 45 minutes, you're going to have a 3-4 car battle for that lead.
Very true there, David. And thank you to Luke Pound, who's just said all the best to the Team BRIT boys. He's, of course, talking about Andy Tucker and Bobby Trundley here. So it looks like we will have 21 competitors. So no Louis Stewart, no Colin Turkington for this round. Hopefully we'll have them both back, along with hopefully some more entries. There is interest. For those wanting to enter the next 7 rounds, the last 7 rounds of the championship, please get in touch via eTeam BRIT at teambrit.co.uk. For the next 7 rounds, it will be £60 for those. So we're going to do a special offer for that as well. All entries for all rounds will be considered. I've had requests from people from the UK, from Italy, and we are getting a lot of people interested in wanting to join us, and that's a really good sign for the championship moving forward, but also for the depth and breadth of the drivers that we will have in this championship, David.
Absolutely, and it's what we said about 20 minutes ago. You asked me about the grid that we've got, the 22 to 21, 22 cars that we've got here. That is going to grow exponentially over this 8-race season. I think once people start watching this broadcast and realising how straightforward it is to get involved with this, and they see the plethora of prizes that are on for this championship, you're going to find a lot of the drivers have got some very stiff competition. We've already seen that coming into round 1 and coming into qualifying, and I think that's only going to grow over the rest of the season, Alex.
No. Mort calling Alex. Sorry about that. But yeah, I think it's going to be quite interesting over the next 60 minutes to have 21 cars on the grid for our first foray here on the R Factor 2 platform. And just to see the dynamics, you can see already how the rubber's looking on the circuit going through Goddard's there, going down the Wheatcroft Straights here at Donington Park, David. It's just a really great sight to see, and obviously that will evolve and play into the strategies for the 1-hour race very, very shortly.
Certainly will. I mean, I'd like to get your take on it as well, Alex. So we've got 60 minutes. We've seen a lot of these drivers in sprint races where it's maybe, say, 25 minutes, 30 minutes, or even 45 minutes. A couple of them we've been lucky enough, or you've been lucky enough to see in our races from the previous eTeam BRIT series that we did in Assetto Corsa Competition. What do you think we're going to see over the hour?
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be so many different strategies. You're going to have to look at it from a perspective from what are the drivers thinking? Are they in a 2-car team? How are they going to play that strategy? How have they set up the cars? Is there going to be a change in weather? I mean, there's every single microcosm of factors that they've got to look at from every single way possible. And with them working together, it's going to play for a really interesting strategy. Some might go for the longer stop, as in they're going to go for the longer first stint, maybe pit with 35 minutes completed. That means they have to put less fuel in. The cars are going to be quicker by 1/10, 2/10, 3/10, depending on how much fuel they've used in the first stint and how much they're going to fill up with at that particular moment in time when they change all 4 tyres. It's going to be very interesting how the teams will then react to undercuts, hot laps. They're basically going to say, right, I need to push. I've got to make up another 3/10 per a lap or 2 laps to just really be on the back bumper of somebody else. If they try the overcut, if they try the undercut, drivers will have to respond accordingly. And it's going to be interesting how that unfolds. And on a technical and twisty circuit, the unpredictability factor goes up quite a lot when you throw so many different variables. You cannot predict exactly what's going to happen at any particular moment. And that's what's really going to change the dynamics of both categories, because when you look at multiple brands in a single class, they're going to run to a specific set of regulations. The BMWs, on the other hand, they are on a particular standardized platform, the same cars, and thereby you're going to see quite a lot of different action. So the variety is the spice of life, David, I think.
Yeah, that's 100%, and that's what makes this series so appealing. And yeah, really looking forward to the race kicking off. The other thing that we've spoken about team strategy, but personal strategy for the drivers is going to be what I'm curious about as well, in terms of like what I would call disaster recovery, Alex. What are they going to do if they get into a bump on lap 1? How are they going to recover that? What are their plans that they've got? Plan A, plan B, plan C, team strategies, all that sort of stuff. It really is. There's so many different layers to this race, and I think we're going to find out how the rest of the season is going to unfold, based on tonight.
I completely understand, and I agree with your point there, because you never know what's going to happen. They're going to be working closely together. The teams, as per the regulations, are in their own Discord chat, so they can chat amongst themselves about what strategy they're going to pull. One might say, well, I'll pit on 35 minutes completed because I'm going to run a little bit longer on the fuel. They'll have to then manage the tyres. But then in some respects, you look at that from a bit of an advantage. Newer tyres, fresher rubber, that's going to give them that advantage. You know, once the tyres are up to temperature, the dynamics of how the car handles through the corners, like say, especially through Redgate, Hollywood, Craner curves down to the old hairpin, that's a pretty fast complex, a bit like Maggots and Beggots and Chapel at Silverstone, but then you've got an incredibly hefty braking zone into the old hairpin, and you've got to get that right, just like a few of the other tight and twisty sections here at Donington Park.
The other thing that I've just that's just come to my attention as well, Alex, is remember a lot of these guys are going to have been running very, very lean for qualifying for the past half an hour. Now, what they're going to have to remember is that these cars are going to be laden up with fuel, and it's going to be cooler tyres as well. So they are going to need to watch these cars for the first couple of laps until they get back into the groove. And it's whether or not, you know, you can be fast on one lap, but what we're looking for is fast drivers on the across the whole hour.
Okay, very soon. We're just waiting on the confirmation that we'll be going into the dual file rolling start formation.
Yeah, I'm looking. Feel like I'm almost grid side just now, Alex, and all the cars are here on the grid. And of course, that's what we do in virtual racing as well as in real racing. Alex, you're a keen person to attest to that. We have to get the green flag from all the marshals, and I think we have got that now here, virtually speaking, and it looks like we are away on our formation lap.
Yes, indeed, David. Thank you for confirming that for me. So Matt Richards will be on pole position. Chris Butcher alongside, followed by teammate Daniel Brewer in the 91 BMW. Bobby Trundley for Team Brit will line up on the outside of row number 2 with the Marlowe Company. Well, I'm trying to get this watch. The Marlowe Watch Company racing duo of John Monroe and Ross McGregor. I told you about my words. I get them out wrong.
I just left you to die under that bus, didn't I? Sorry, mate.
It wasn't as many as Jimmy Broadbent's the other week at the Le Mans 24-hour virtual. Ed Sibbald and Aidan Bro, that is row number 4. Adam Kokaszewski and Joey Horlock, that is row number 5, ahead of Andy Tucker, Daniel Hyde, Bradley Brockies, Max Spooner, Sandro Ballesteros and Freddie Hunt, rounding out the GT3 grid. Then we turn to the M2CSs. Pole position for Martin Buchan in the 35, followed by the 66 of Ryan Elliott, Christian Kelly in the 14, Dave Martin in the 40, and Ben Hetherington in the number 4, bringing up the rear of the field. Now making their way through McLean's up towards Coppice on the formation lap, and as soon as we get the sign to go racing, we will be underway for 1 hour here at Donington Park. 2.498 miles, 4.020 kilometres. And this is a track where it is going to definitely showcase what will happen. So, Alex Goldschmidt and David Christie, your commentators for us at the eTeam BRIT GT3 Challenge and SYNETIQ BMW Series. We are seconds away from going green here at Donington Park.
Alex, this is where the nerves and the anticipation really build. Even though it's a virtual race, I can assure you a 60-minute race is so stressful. You want to absolutely nail the start, and here we go with just seconds to go.
Now they're heading down towards the Melbourne hairpin with the Marlowe Watch Company Racing safety car ahead of the likes of Matt Richards and Chris Butcher. There is Martin Buchan on the top left, your pole sitter in the BMW N2 Club Sport class. We now round Goddard's. The pace car will pull into the pits, and will we go green, lights out for round 1 here at Donington Park. Ladies and gentlemen, We are off and away, heading to Redgate. Great start from Matt Richards as Chris Butcher gets into behind the McLaren for the first time into Redgate. Bobby Trundley looks to go around the outside of Daniel Brewer through Redgate for the first time, heading down Hollywood, side by side for third and fourth between Trundley and Brewer. This is absolute commitment through the Craners. They're going to be pushing over 140 miles an hour in fifth gear as they head towards the old hairpin. Brewer's got the inside line, Trundley to the outside. That was an incredible start there from Matt Richards, but Butcher has not left him kept napping in any way, shape or form there, David, as Martin Buchan now leading Ryan Elliott in the 66 BMW CS up the hill, through the old hairpin, through into McLean's for the first time.
Oh, what a cracking battle for 8th and 9th place. We've got contact Andy Tucker and Daniel Hyde side by side as they come into Coppice, and that's going to put them way down the order. I cannot believe that we got all of the GT3 cars round those first couple of corners without any incident whatsoever.
So at the moment, top 10 in GT3, it is Matt Richards, Chris Butcher, Daniel Brewer, Bobby Trundley, Ross McGregor now ahead of John Munro. As there's a move up the inside, that's Joey Follock battling along with John Munro for P6. Bradley Brockes has made his way up to P8 at the moment, ahead of Aidan Bro, and Ed Sibbald up to P10. And then Karkaszewski now all the way down the order, the 88 BMW from Luna Racing down in 21st. He's got time to get back into the thick of things, but it's going to be quite a tall order.
Yeah, we saw Ben Hetherington having the worst possible start. Tech issues meant that he couldn't shift down just on the formation lap. He was getting told off by race control. It looks like he might have got that car fixed, but that is a terrible start to his 60 minutes.
Not what you want at the start of the opening round, but there are still 8 rounds, including the 8 rounds, obviously, with a double points round at Le Mans. So this is a good battle here there, David. So we've got the 2 Marlow Watch Company racing cars. I'm going to try and get that right as quickly as possible. Ahead of Driller Esports, Joey Follock from the Netherlands, just 17 years of age. And he's tasted success in his first 12 months of sim racing, as it looks like the teammates nearly... Oh, that was a bit close for Ross McGregor, and that allows Follock to close up on the back of the 33 Aston, heading towards the Melbourne hairpin. Yellow in sector 3 now, as Follock sent it up the inside of Monroe and tries to go on the inside of McGregor there. That was close. That could have been 2 in 1.
Yeah, that was a disastrous move for the Marlow Watch Company pair of John Munro and Ross McGregor.
That is a real shame of what just happened there. That was one of the either the eTeam BRIT or the Team BRIT cars, and one of the Cadan Casual Apex cars. I think that might be Dan Hyde possibly was involved in that. We've just heard that there's been an unfortunate disconnect, I think, for Adam Karkaszewski in the 88. That's a real shame for him on the opening round.
Yeah, the thing is, Alex, tech issues happen in real racing just as much as they do in sim racing. Just want to bring to the point, Daniel Hyde having a warning for that contact on lap 1 with Andy Tucker, the Corvette driver, currently down in 12th place. So he's going to have to be on his best behaviour for the rest of the race.
Very true indeed. So now down to 20 competitors. There's the number 14 of Christian Kelly, trying to close on Ryan Elliott in the 66. And they're not that far apart, if I'm honest with you, but it's quite a nice 3-way scrap with Buchan leading it. Elliott in second, Kelly in third, and then you've got Dave Martin in 4th place. So at the moment, Matt Richards has got a lead of nearly 3 seconds on Chris Butcher, as it looks to be a 4-way scrap, depending how quickly Dave Martin closes on the back bumper of Christian Kelly. And there's a little bit of contact there. That's Dan Hyde, and that was on Aidan Bro, I believe. That's happened at the Fogarty Essities. So there has been a drive-through. I've just been informed, for Ed Sibbald there. So Aidan put into a bit of a tailspin, which is not what he wanted. But Bobby Trundley is keeping pace here, David, with Daniel Brewer, and he's got a real good run out of McLean's up to Coppice.
I've been watching this little battle for a couple of laps now, and it's been like this since lap 1. Bobby Trundley is doing exactly what I said is going to need to happen. You need to spend the first 5 laps getting to know the car, getting to know the cars around you, and feeling very, very comfortable, and that's exactly what Bobby Trundley is doing. He is shaping Daniel Brewer up for a move, and I think there's a little bit of mind games going on here as well, because Bobby is right on the back of him, so Daniel just doesn't know when this move is going to happen, and that's going to put him under all sorts of pressure mentally.
Very much the case, and I've just seen that Ross McGregor is trying to fend off Joey Follock and the number 22 McLaren for P5, and not too far behind is John Munro. So that's a really nice battle that's sort of showcased itself since we went green just around 6 minutes ago.
We have to take a minute though, I think, and talk about Matt Richards though. 3.5 seconds clear of Chris Butcher in second place. This is what you want to see as a racing driver. Absolutely nothing in front of you. He's got nothing but clean air and his rear view mirror and his side mirrors. All it's going to be is this tiny little dot in the background of Chris Butcher.
Yeah, the other thing that you've got to remember now he's catching up to Ben Hetherington. So the backmarker traffic is also going to play a factor in, and I didn't realise, I was like thinking probably 10-15 minutes in, but obviously with the issues that Ben has had, it's now put him straight in the firing line of Matt Richards, now going to pass him, and Ben's just got to just keep it calm and collected and let Matt just go past, which he does very, very well there. Great spatial awareness there from Ben Hetherington. Andy Tucker in the number 67 McLaren, coming over the ump on Starkey Straight down towards the Fogarty S's. But I'm just looking at the battle for third and fourth, David. That still, it's Brewer v Trundley. And here's a nice little battle between a couple, I think that looks to be one of the eTeam BRIT cars and one of the, might be the pair of them actually, Bradley Brockies. Aidan Bro in the middle, and Sandro Ballesteros in the sister car, the number 19, going towards the outside of Goddard's.
Yeah, that's
just trying to keep it nice and clean
in front of him. So, the wonderful thing about this, Alex, sorry to jump in there, is that all through the pack, you've got these little bubbles of racing going on right now. You've got the two, as you mentioned there, it was the two Team BRIT cars, the Sandro Ballesteros and Edward Sibbald, Bradley Brockies rather. We see Edward Sibbald a little bit behind after his drive-through, but as a driver, this is what keeps you going through these 60-minute races, when you've got this level of competition, as we see Bradley Brockies and Sandro Ballesteros going round the outside there. That was a little bit of a heart and mouth moment there, I'll admit, but when you get these races and these little pack battles all the way through, this is what makes the 60 minutes just absolutely fly by and become so enjoyable.
Very much the case, as there's a move up the inside, a little tag into the side of Daniel Brewer from Ross McGregor. As Trundley's got past the IMB Vodball Racing, that was a move that I don't think really was on there. The gap was being closed. So, but Bobby Trundley now up into P3, and that has allowed Joey Follock and John Munro to go up to P4 and 5. Brewer demoted to 7th as a result of that clash between him and McGregor.
So just jumping in there, Daniel Brewer having a big moment at the end of the Melbourne hairpin there. We saw it, or at least I caught the tail end of it. We'll maybe be able to get the replay of that. But Daniel Brewer certainly been sent across the grass on the outside of that corner there. And he's now down into 7th place.
Right, here we go with the replay. The gap is being closed by Brewer. McGregor sends it up the inside as late as he dare. He tags the side, and then it puts the car to the right-hand side, to a 90-degree right, which is better in rallying, but not on circuit raceway. So a bit of a disaster there for Daniel Brewer. But look at it this way, David. He can recover from that. I've heard that there's going to be a drive-through penalty for Ross McGregor as a result of that clash. So Simply Race providing the sound and vision. Obviously us two providing the sound from our own respective microphones but also Simply Race are doing our race control as well. Grant Lyman is our race director. So that's really changed the dynamic of the race in some respects, David, but think of it this way. Daniel Brewer can come back from this. There's still 50 minutes of this race left to go.
Potentially that's actually hurt Ross McGregor more than it's hurt Daniel Brewer. At most it's cost maybe a place, but for Ross McGregor, drive-through penalty, that's at least, 25-30 seconds that takes you off. That's going to put him all the way down into potentially P15.
So just over 49 minutes remaining of the first round of the eTeam BRIT GT3 Challenge. We now go on board with John Munro in the Marlowe Marlowe Watch Company Racing Aston Martin GT3 up the hill through Starkeys, through into Schwanzkurve, into the right at McLean's, turn 7. Wrestling with the back end of the car, second gear, third gear, now up to fourth, braking from nearly 200 kph into Coppice, second gear 130 on the apex. You can just see how much commitment he's wrestling with this car, isn't he, David?
He certainly is. Another man wrestling with the car right now is Max Spooner down into 12th place there. He had a bit of a moment and managed to recover it very, very well, but that still drops him behind Sandro Ballesteros. So again, we've seen him really struggling with this car during practice and qualifying, and I wonder if there's maybe a little bit more setup work needed for the rest of the season.
Especially with the different characteristics of the tracks that we're going to as well. Zandvoort's going to be tight, twisty, technical, but also fast-flowing in some places. As Max is, well, that's Max Spooner just on screen there, just behind Sandro Ballesteros. Sandro's done a really, really good job. Just 13 years of age, and he's showing that he can be capable behind the wheel of a kart, but also the wheel of a sim. And that's just a true sign why he's doing the 24 hours of Le Mans with iRacing, which starts tomorrow afternoon at 2:15 p.m, which you can watch on the iRacing channels. And we at eTeam BRIT will be streaming it live throughout the whole 24 hours of the race, with Max Spooner and Bradley Brockies on spotter duty. But you can just see how much closer Ed Sibbald is getting to be. Here's Christian Kelly closing really quickly on the back bumper of Ryan Elliott there, David. And this is battle. This is a really good battle. This is for second on the road, and there's one of the Team BRIT cars behind there, I think.
Yeah, that's Bobby Trundley that's trying to get his way past that as well. And this is where it's going to come difficult, Alex, is when you've got cars that are in their own respective battle, as we see Bobby Trundley just firing it up the inside in some excellent manners there from Ryan Elliott. But I did say this was going to be the source of some fantastic pack racing, and you see that from Ryan Elliott and Christian Kelly.
And that's also Joe Frolic that's gone up the inside of the pair of them. The Dutchman, just 17 years of age. As now, Bobby's in the pits. Now, is that for a drive-through, I wonder? Because the pit stop window is not open for another 6.5 minutes. So if that is a drive-through... Okay. So I'm just getting some... Okay, just being told in my ear by race director Grant Lyman about the fact that track limits are an auto... activated as part of the system software here on R Factor 2. There's Aidan Bro now up into P10, chasing down the Cadan Casual Apex Callaway Corvette of Daniel Hyde in the number 2. And who runs wide? Nicely done by Aidan Bro there, David, just to time it right to see if Hyde would make a mistake. And just after the old hairpin, Aidan Bro goes, "Thank you very much."
Certainly did, and just in front of him, Andy Tucker in 7th place, having a bit of a moment through Redgate on turn 1 there, as we saw Bobby Trundley coming out of pit lane. So he's recovered, but he's now down to 7th place. And you were just on about that, the information coming through from race control. For myself, this is the first time that I've been able to hear race control midway through a race. So Alex, I've got to say you're doing a fantastic job of being able to keep going when race control are giving you all that information. Because for me, if somebody else starts speaking in my ears, I start slurring the speech. So I think I'll just be staying very, very quiet when that happens.
I mean, that's through my karting commentary experience. I've always got a radio earpiece in my ear, so you kind of get used to it, and that's after 3 seasons in Europe. So here's John Munro chasing down Joe Frolic. That's the number 33 Aston versus the number 22 McLaren. But at the moment, with just 4 3/4 minutes until the pit stop window opens here at Donington Park for 20 minutes. This is a really good battle here too, because the contretemps between Brewer and McGregor, David, has unpopped the cork in the bottle and allowed both Frolic and Munro to have their own battle.
Yeah, and I thought for a little bit that Vrolik was starting to edge away from Munro, but Munro now seeming to get a second lease of life, and he's all over the back of Joey Vrolik here as they come down towards the Fogarty S's. John Munro, I think, is itching to try and make this move stick before the pit window opens.
And he's definitely shown that credence last time out in the Team Brit Summer Series. Multi-time podium winner as well. Also one of the Texaco Hot Lap Awards that we were giving away last time out. Big thank you for Texaco for being involved once again. They've been promoting Freddie Hunt's livery all over the internet over the last few hours, which has been great. So a big thank you to Texaco for their support of this, and also of Team Brit as always. But look at the gap between Richards and Butcher, David. Nearly 9 seconds.
And that's exactly what has been happening all through the race. 8.1, I think it is now. It's come down very, very slightly. But Matt Richards is an absolute machine in that car right now. He's making it look so easy as he comes down Starkey Straight and on the way in towards Fogarty S's. This has been an absolute masterclass. But on the point I was making before, Alex, just have a look through the rest of the field there. I don't know if you can see the live timing there that you can see online. You've got several different groups. You've got a group there of Brewer, Trundley, Tucker and McGregor. You've then got Ballesteros in that group as well, and then, Ballesteros falling back to the group of Sibbald, Spooner and Brockies there as well. So some brilliant little bubbles popping up during the race.
Yeah, definitely the case. And there's quite a few battles with drivers, say in the GT3 side of things. I mean, Ross McGregor and Aidan Bro are separated by less than 1.8 seconds. Then you look at the battle between Ed Sibbald and Sandro Ballesteros for what is P10. And then the battle for 7th, which has got Andy Tucker leading that ahead of Ross McGregor and Aidan Bro. You can see that McGregor is actually closing in on the Team Brit driver. And Bro is losing a little bit of distance, but he's in the same machinery as Ross McGregor. And it looks like there is another drop down the order, and this time it's John Munro for track limits, I think.
No, I think he's in the pits for a pit stop. He's stopped in pit lane from what I can see.
Right, well, if he's done that, because the window is due to open in around 1 minute and 45 seconds. So we're fast approaching what is actually the pit stop window, or has he had to repair damage possibly? I'm not too sure. Feel that I'll get some sort of confirmation very, very shortly, but in just over 1 minute and 20 seconds.
I think he's made a mistake. I think he's come in too early. I wonder. We'll find out. Certainly, we can eavesdrop on the communication.
Right, okay. Yeah, well, thanks for race control. That was a stop and go for cut corners. So that is being policed through the software. So he's the second person to, as there's a big spin-off at Redgate for Freddie Hunt, who manages to keep it out of the kiddie litter and get it back out on circuit. So this is now the battle for 6th place, as Frolic has now got daylight between himself and Daniel Brewer. Right, so here we go down into Redgate. So that's Freddie Hunt, I think, behind Matt Richards. And he has this, I'm not too sure, was that the slightest of tags on the back, or did the back just step out? It looked very, very difficult from that angle for me to sort of correlate it, but I think, David, possibly that might have been just the slightest little touch on the back bumper of Matt Richards. It didn't unsettle the McLaren, but it clearly unsettled the Aston Martin.
And you've mentioned that several times through the broadcast, Alex, about the different tracks that we visit here in the season. Donington, while it appears very straightforward, the bumps and undulations in this circuit, the corners will unsettle the car as it is. As I hear from race control there that pit lane is now open, so we're going to see cars diving in. But just back to that point you were making there, Alex, it's difficult enough as a circuit from all the sweeping corners.
Oh, sorry to cut across you there. Yellow in sector 2 because Andy Tucker has just had a sight coming together with, I think that was Ross McGregor. So sorry to cut across you there, David, but that was as you were making your point, so I shall leave you back to that.
No, absolutely. That's the whole point that I was trying to make there, is the fact that these accidents happen because the car is maybe forced on a part of the track that it's not used to running on, so therefore it doesn't know how the bumps are going to handle it, as well as the racing line. So expect to see a lot more of that as the traffic develops, Alex.
Right, classes racing incident according to race control because Andy Tucker turned in. Ross McGregor was up the inside, so Andy closed the gap when Ross actually had room to get through. So he was over half a car length alongside Andy, so Ross had the racing line, so no penalty given. Good job here though, David, by Martin Buchan, but look who's on his back bumper. Elliott in the 66, and just up ahead of them, Ben Hetherington in the number 4. And this is a great battle now because the pair have actually dropped Christian Kelly, who was actually ahead of Elliott at one point.
Yeah, and Buchan had a considerable lead over the field there, and that's all come right back down. There has been a lot of the GT3 cars piling through these BMWs and putting them off their pace, off their racing line, and now Ben Hetherington is going to come into the mix at the worst possible opportunity, and we see Daniel Hyde just down in 13th place there, having to recover. That was out of between the Old Hairpin and Starkey's Bridge.
Oh crikey. So this is a replay. Great aerial shot from Simply Race for providing this, and you can just see, David, Ross was half a car length again alongside him, wasn't it?
Yeah, and that's all it takes, is just a little bit of offline. As I'm watching Freddie Hunt has went off at the last corner and then has absolutely ditched it into turn 1. I think we possibly might be seeing a retiral here if he's not able to get it out of that kitty litter. Oh, he's got it going again. So Freddie Hunt just making his way around. I hope you can get to see the replay of that one, Alex. But Freddie Hunt really pushing very hard in this race.
Yeah, I think every driver's pushing quite hard at the moment. I mean, you can see that Chris Butcher is extending his gap between himself and Jove Holleck from the Netherlands in the number 22. The gap now is quite considerable. Now, here is the incident with Dan Hyde. Oh, that's properly gone off track. Right into the barriers, off of McLean's, onto the track. Oh, that was close. Nearly got collected by another car. And now Buchan's extended the lead again to just over a second in the BMW Club Sport category. These cars running at 455 brake horsepower, and considering with the current power outputs, as Matt Richards is finding his way to side through the BMW SYNETIQ Series. Oh, Richards off! Richards off! Oh my goodness. What happened there?
Now, was that with the leaders? It looked like there was other cars involved in that. Was that the BMWs? We'll see on the replay. But yeah, Richards very lucky that he had that big gap, but that is now gone. That is now evaporated. 1.6 seconds between Chris Butcher, and that is going to set the alarm bells ringing right now.
Well, that was nearly 9 seconds, and that was Ryan Elliott that he had an issue with, but no penalty. Right, race control has told me that Matt Richards went for a gap on Ryan Elliott that was not there, so it's actually, he tried to feed the eye through the needle and it did not pay off, and the gap now between him and Chris Butcher is just over 0.6 of a second.
And guess who he's coming up on just now, Alex?
Oh, crikey. I dread to think.
Yeah,
There's the contact. He was trying to go towards the outside of the old hairpin, and that just happened.
Yeah, the simple fact is that these BMWs are racing their own race. There will be a blue flag shown to the drivers, but it's up, as always, it's up to the faster driver to make their way around the slower driver. So, you know, we've seen it there. Ryan Elliott, absolutely nothing to fault him there. And Matt Richards, a very, very lucky boy, but that gap now down to 0.4 of a second.
Yeah, and it looks like there's been a storm over where Adam Kokoszewski has, so he is unfortunately disconnected. Real shame, because I was looking forward to seeing how the 88 BMW was going to get on with. So that's pushed us down to 20 competitors. I know for a fact that some drivers have actually pitted. I think Dave Martin and Ryan Elliott have pitted. Ross McGregor now in the pits. Freddie Hunt's in the pits. So Hyde's pitted as well. So a lot of drivers just before the halfway point of the pit stop window. We've got 14 minutes of that left. And now Matt Richards has got a gap extended, but now this is between Martin and Hetherington. And there's one of the casual Apex cars. Oh, not what you want. That was Dan. Was that Dan Hyde?
Dan Hyde, it certainly was. And Dave Martin getting caught up in that incident there, Alex. You hate to see it, but yeah, these cars have got nowhere to go, and I think these GT3 cars are going to have to rethink these overtaking opportunities.
Yeah, that was very clear, because he went nearly 4 wheels onto the grass. I mean, obviously, track limits have to be enforced, but Dan Hyde went for something that I think really wasn't possible, and that was a real shame for both him, but then also for Dave Martin. So Daniel Hyde drops all the way down to P15 out of the GT3 drivers still circulating at the moment. So that was that's a 5-second stop-go penalty for Dan Hyde on the contact, which was avoidable between him and Dave Martin. But Dave Martin now has a bit of a comeback trail to go through, hasn't he, David?
He certainly does, and we don't know if he's got any damage on that car after the incident there, as we see Ryan Elliott trying to get in the mix there with some GT3 cars. But terrible luck there for Dave Martin to get caught up in that. And you know, what else could he have done, Alex?
I think it was 2 into 1 trying to go, and it didn't quite work out, really. But it is that kind of thing. Rubbing is racing, but you don't want to see that kind of incident. And as you say, the GT3 drivers will have to rethink it. Both incidents for Matt Richards and now Dan Hyde. That sets a bit of a tone for this race, as we're 2 minutes away from getting towards the pit stop. Well, the DAF driver of the day votes now will be started as of 30 minutes on the clock left to go. And you'll have until 5 minutes to go to put in your casting votes. If it is a tie between 2 drivers at the end of it, both myself and David will have the casting vote, and will have to be a joint agreement for us to do so. But Christian Kelly now has profited as a result of the clash between Dan Hyde and Dave Martin there, David. So Christian Kelly now having to try and close up, and he is closing up on Martin Buchan. It's about 1.2 seconds adrift.
And how? Look at the way he's just throwing that BMW M2 Club Sport around the track here, down through Hollywood, down through the Craner curves as they're coming up towards McLean's just now. He's really desperate for that first place. And you know what? With this pace, I wouldn't put it past Christian Kelly.
So Dan Hyde was trying to go around the outside of Dave Martin at 5th gear at over 125 miles an hour on the slow-mo replay. Great pickup by the guys here at Simply Race. So he's in 5th gear. Now the contact happens as he tries to come back onto the circuit to put all 4 wheels on the tarmac, and it just spits him out. Dave Martin's got nothing to do with it, and Dan Hyde sends himself into the kitty litter, and Dave Martin, who gets turned 180 degrees, pointing the other direction down the Fogarty S's.
Matt Richards is a very, very lucky boy. He's going to be breathing a sigh of relief. That gap that was down to just 0.4 of a second now, stretching out to Chris Butcher in second place, 2.2 seconds, as we see Chris Butcher under pressure on the track, but it's not from anyone who is behind him. I think that is one of the Astons. That's John Munro that's behind him, and John Munro was looking so good, Alex, wasn't he, until he had that unfortunate stop-go penalty. Until he had his penalty for cutting. I believe it was only one corner that he cut, and he got an in-game penalty.
Very much the case. So 9.5 minutes to go until the pit stop window closes. And also, for those wanting to cast your votes in, please have a look at the description in the streams on Facebook, Twitch, Periscope and YouTube. Send your casting votes in for the DAF driver of the day from now until 5 minutes before the checkered flag here at the eTeam BRIT GT3 Challenge in the SYNETIQ BMW Series here at Donington Park. And it is at eTeam BRIT at teambrit.co.uk. If there is a tie, there will be a casting vote between myself and David Christie to decide the DAF driver of the day for round 1. And this will be running all the way through the 8-race calendar season.
So, past halfway then in the race, Alex, has this been everything you thought it would be?
And then some. The incidents that we've had, we knew that it was going to be quite interesting on switching it up between two classes, but then to now see it going from gestation to what we see now, it's very, very different. And if I'm really, really honest, I'm so glad I've got you beside me in the commentary box.
Thank you very much, buddy. It's likewise reciprocated. As I don't know if you'll maybe want to have a look at this, but battle for 9th place is absolutely amazing right now, as we see Bradley Brockie's Ross McGregor, and that is Bradley Brockie's going into the pit lane, but Ross McGregor duking it out with Max Spooner, and there is nothing to split these two up. It is toe to toe right now between these two.
Yeah, Sandro Ballesteros has gone into the pits. Richards is in the pit, so Butcher now takes the lead with 27.5 minutes remaining. As you can just see how difficult it is for the Astons. Oh, Ben Hetherington and Freddie Hunt collide through the old hairpin. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I saw that one coming a mile off. I think from the very brief camera glimpse that I caught of that, I think Freddie Hunt was a little bit too hot into that corner there, and Ben Hetherington really didn't have anywhere to go. And look at Ben Hetherington's car. It is crabbing from left to right. I wonder if there's some severe damage on that car.
Right, let's have a look here. So one of the Marlow cars goes around the outside. There's no gap. And Freddie just sends it, hoping that he can get through. Tags the right rear quarter of the BMW. That's where the crabbing's going to originate from. And Freddie Hunt will get a 5-second stop-go penalty as a result of that collision. Well, just when you think the heats will stop coming, David, they keep on coming, don't they?
They certainly do. I'm busy watching a race here, and I thought it was for position, but it's actually Matt Richards in 5th place, and I'm trying to figure out who that is that he is fighting there. I think that might have been Bradley Brockie's, but that was looking quite tasty there for a second. Now we're going to see a little bit of a lull in the action in terms of a lot of the cars are going to be spaced out. But we're not deprived completely, because if you just look at the battle for 8th place, Ian Brow and Max Spooner now together on the circuit, as we see a BMW facing the wrong way there. That's Ryan Elliott, who just rejoins the circuit ahead of Dave Martin.
So that's compromised what could possibly have been a 2nd place finish. But in the meantime, Martin Buchan is being closed in on by Christian Kelly. And there's Elliott. Now, whether it's been that GT3 traffic's trying to pass him and he's having to avoid and keep out of the way, or whether there's something that's happened that has been unbeknownst to you or I, as Bobby Trundley now comes in for his mandatory pit stops.
Well, I think he's went off the track at Old Hairpin because when I caught up to him, he was rejoining the track and the car was at a 90-degree angle. So he's obviously had some sort of an issue at the Old Hairpin on this lap.
Joey Frolick's gone into the back bumper of Ryan Elliott. That's why he's gone off. So Joey Frolick's got to drive through as a result of that from race control. So yeah, again, it was a repeat of what happened with Ben Hetherington and Freddie Hunt, but it was right into the back bumper, and that put him spinning. So Martin Buchan has got a sizable lead as you've got Elliott, Martin and Kelly all in the pits.
Now, I would never have believed I was going to say this about 10 minutes ago, but I think that John Munro may be in the hunt for a top 5 position here, and I'll tell you why. He's just come behind Joey Froelich, who's just come out of pit lane there, and Max Spinner is in front of him as well. Aidan Brow is probably about 6 seconds up the road from that battle there, so John Munro could make up a whole heap of places on these next few laps.
Yeah, if he puts in the hot laps, he's got a very good chance of doing it. So there is Joey Frolick up ahead. And there's one of the IMB Vodball Racing BMWs there, I think, and that could be either... that could be Chris Butcher or Daniel Brewer, either one of the two.
It's Butcher.
Okay, who is our current leader at the minute, and you can just see how close John Munro is now towards Joey Frolick from the Netherlands in the number 22 Drillers Esports McLaren. And it just shows that, obviously, from John Munro's perspective, you know, he's the SMRC Esports PC champion. He's now been doing iRacing in preparation for the 24-hour Le Mans tomorrow for iRacing. He's been on Project Cars 2, Assetto Corsa Competizione, now R-Factor 2, now iRacing. And as a real-life driver, you can just see the adaptability skills that John Munro has. A bit like Sterling Moss and all the drivers back in the 1950s and 60s, wouldn't you say?
It's absolutely sickening how much talent John Munro has. I mean, it makes me so frustrated when I'm racing against him. If I hear he's on the driver lineup for a race that I'm in, I'm just like, oh, right, okay, fair enough. He is just so fast, and having had the chance to see him in real life and know that he is just as fast in a real car, it's I'm actually genuinely excited to follow his progress, because I think he is going to be one of the names in Scottish motorsport in the future, up there with the likes of Johnny Adam.
As we see a move on the replay, that is Matt Richards going up the inside of Andy Tucker in the 6017 Brit 720S GT3.
Now, Alex, is it just me, or is Joey Froelich putting Chris Butcher under some incredible pressure right now?
Yeah, he's less than 2 seconds behind. No,
Butcher's
gone in the pits. Butcher's gone in the pits. So whether that was a side count tactic, I'm not too sure. But that was not for position. Munro's in the pits. Tucker's in the pits. Butcher's in the pits now as well. Tucker's about to exit the pit lane. So a stop is around about a minute from start to finish. Mandatory pit stop of 30 seconds for each competitor in both classes. So around a minute to a minute and 10 seconds from pit lane entrance to pit lane exit.
Alex, what a battle we've got for 6th place right now. Max Spooner and Bobby Trundley side by side as they're coming up towards McLean's, and this is a cracking little battle. Aidan Brow also in the mix there. Max Spooner gets done by Bobby Trundley and gets put down at 7th place. Aidan Brow is looking to pick up the remains of that as they come through Coppice.
Yellow in sector 1. We have just over, 50 seconds until the pit stop window closes. The drivers will have an additional time on top of it. So I will just wait to hear about drivers that might not have pitted. So whether Spooner's gone for the long haul, which is why he's kept himself up into like 6th, 7th, 8th position. Just see when he comes through the exit of Goddard's very, very shortly. Trundley up to P6, ahead of Aidan Brow. Some of the drivers using their own Twitch streams to Right, Spooner's coming in with 15 seconds on the clock. That is how close he has managed that. That's brilliant timing from Max Spooner. So we have just 15 minutes remaining for you to cast your votes. eTeam BRIT at teambrit.co.uk in order to give us your driver of the day thoughts. We are still waiting. Yellow in sector 2.
And that's Freddie Hunt. Freddie Hunt is in the barrier, and I think, is that on the exit of the old hairpin?
Oh no. Another altercation for Freddie. He's been in the trenches, hasn't he?
He certainly has. That car's not moving. I wonder if that is Freddie Hunt retiring.
Right, we'll see if we can catch a replay of that very, very shortly. So that will be yellow flags, no overtaking in sector 2. And here is Bobby Trundley, past one of the BMW M2 Club Sports. And David, he's only 49.5 seconds behind Butcher, who is still in the lead. But look how quickly Matt Richards is closing on the number 65 from IMB Vodbull Racing.
Yeah, this is starting to get very, very interesting because, of course, Matt Richards... So if I read this correctly, Chris Butcher has done the undercut on Matt Richards then to get himself that 6-second lead.
He's done that. That's been brilliant. Okay, here's Freddie Hunt through Starkeys up towards Schwanz Curve. Lost it through McLean's, and the back end steps out, and the car just goes careering forwards, nose first into the barriers. Well, it says that he's on track at the moment.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a race-ending moment there for Freddie Hunt. The car has been stationary now for about a minute and a half as I'm having a look at Chris Butcher in the lead, currently coming over one of the Corvettes. That's Daniel Hyde that he's just got past there. 6 seconds now, so that gap is it's holding itself out.
Yeah, and then as we've got another yellow in sector 2 already. So, yeah, I think you could be right there because Freddie has actually dropped very, very low indeed, down to 19th position. And that puts him 5 laps off of the leaders. Chris Butcher, 6.2 seconds ahead of Matt Richards. So, Race Control has informed us that all drivers have completed their mandatory pit stops here at Donington Park. So, no post-race penalties in that aspect. 16 minutes and 54 seconds left on the clock. I'm just going to try and see on the streams if I can get the crowds to sort of get in there casting votes for the Daft Driver of the Day. So, David, I'll just leave it in your hands for just a couple of moments.
Excellent, thank you very much. So what I am seeing on my screen, because obviously it'll be very different to what Alex has on his live screen just now. I was watching your BMW Championship leader just now, the BMW SYNETIQs. That is Martin Buchan. He is a long way ahead of Christian Kelly. That looks to be around about 5 seconds, but that was Max Spooner and Bradley Brockies who very gingerly made their way past him. So again, it's all looking very comfortable and stable as we come up towards the business end of this race here. Just about 17 minutes left to go. We're on minute number 43, and I'm also having a look down at Bobby Trundley as Bobby Trundley tried to chase down Joy Vrolic for 5th place, and he has got Aidan Brow hot on his tail as well. 3 seconds just, splitting 5th, 6th and 7th place as they come through red gates now. And again, cars now starting to settle into that rhythm. They're starting to get into the groove, and the time just flies by when you're doing this. I speak from experience. experience when doing these endurance races. That's where you want to be. It's what they call peak state. It's what they call flow. When you're in that that ability to turn laps and you can't even remember what the laps were, that is the where you want to be, because that's where you're at the optimum speed. But Joey Vrolik just pulling a little bit of a gap there on 6th place of Bobby Trundley and Aidan Bro in 7th place. Aidan Bro really trying to experiment with the limits of the track, really pushing that car as hard as he possibly could. I'll have a quick look at the leaders as well. Chris Butcher still that 6-second gap, and Matt Richards, you've got to remember, Matt Richards through the early stages of the race was taking about a second to a second and a half out of 2nd place, and he's really not been able to keep back on that pace. So Chris Butcher up into the lead, and it's now 6.1 seconds, and again lap traffic is going to play its part throughout that as well. So it's been a remarkably incident-free race so far. I'm touching the desk here so I don't put the old commentator's jinx here. I'm watching, that is going to be Dave Martin and one of the Corvettes making his way past him. And it's all looking, that was Edward Sibbald who just makes his way past him, but it is all looking relatively calm. We'll jump back to the battle for 5th, 6th and 7th place. Joey Vrolik ahead of Bobby Trundley and Aidan Bro, who just managed to make it past Martin Buchan there for, I think that must be about the 3rd time. Yeah, Martin Buchan now 3 laps down behind the leader here, and Bobby Trundley has got some impressive pace. He's just not been able to make the luck stick and take his chances, but 6th place is not a bad outcome so far. But the man I'm more impressed with right now has to probably be Ross McGregor. Ross McGregor not having the best of starts, having a bit of contact earlier on, and still coming back into it. He's managed to claw his way back up into 4th place, 34 seconds behind Chris Butcher for the lead as he comes in towards the final corner, and we now have only 14 minutes left to go in race number 1.
Right, so sorry about that, just trying to get people to get involved. You have not long now. You've got about 8 minutes to give your driver of the day, the DAF driver of the day, the one that stood out most to yourself, for those watching at home. So unfortunately, not to burst anyone's bubble, but you have to submit your driver of the day to the link that has just been sent, or the email address that's just been sent on YouTube, Twitch and Facebook via the multiple platforms. So yeah, it's been pretty close between some of the drivers, but Matt Richards, let's not forget, David, got pole position. He's got the fastest lap, but he's not leading because of what happened between him and Ryan Elliott a bit earlier on in the race that really caught the pair of them out and truncated both of their races.
But where's that pace gone, Alex? That's what I want to know, because he's in clear air at the moment. He's not having to deal with too many back markers, not any more than, say, Chris Butcher, and that time's dropping. So Matt Richards was gaining a very significant lead. I think it was up to about 8 seconds or 9 seconds at one point before he came a cropper. And now he's just not able to match that pace that he was in earlier on. And Chris Butcher now 6.5 seconds ahead in the lead with just 12 minutes to go. This is looking very, very good, and surprisingly good for Chris Butcher.
Very much the case, and it looks like it could be an IMB Vodball Racing 1-3 because you've got Brewer in 3rd. McGregor from the Marlow Watch Company Racing crew is in 4th. Joey Frolick, as here is Hetherington, who I think has just been lapped by Martin Buchan. Oh, a little bit of a tag from the number 4, and it sends him going Tokyo Drift style through Goddard's, and there is one of the McLarens from either eTeam BRIT or Team BRIT just behind.
Yeah, that's Andy Tucker trying to make his way through there. We've not really seen anything from Ben Hetherington in the race there, and yeah, that was almost a bit of an oopsie moment there, but I think he lives to tell the tale on that one.
Live to fight another day, as they say, David. But the gap between Butcher and Richards hasn't really been truncated in 2. Now I'm wondering if the car's got an issue with it in terms of damage, maybe. because they have a maximum 50% damage per vehicle that is actually competing. But whether it's just been a bit of an unsettle after that clash where he's now going to try and look, okay, I could have got the race win, but in some respects the consistency is what I'm looking for in the championship.
That's a very, very good point, Alex. It's round one of an 8-race calendar, and points make prizes. So you're going to, of course, take the most that you can. And it's a very good point about the damage. We don't know what sort of damage is on that car just now. But just having a look down at the battle for 6th place, as we see Bobby Trundley. Now he is both getting caught by Aidan Bro in 7th place, but he's also catching Joey Vrolic hand over fist for 5th place there. So cracking little battle going on there, and 2.5 seconds splitting up 3 drivers.
Right, we've had 2 votes for DAF Driver of the Day. It's a 50-50 split between 2 respective drivers. So 2 have come in. You've still got just under 4.5 minutes to place your DAF Driver of the Day casting vote. If it becomes a tie between 2 particular drivers, both myself and David will confer, and we will announce what our casting vote is. So we have to have a unanimous decision on that. But then you look at the battle now between Pollock, Trundley and Bro there, David, and they are separated by 2 seconds from 5th to 7th position.
Yeah, with just 9 minutes left to go, this is... Oh no, I've got a horrible gut feeling at how this is going to go, because the pair of them, while Trundley and Bro are fighting it out with themselves, Vrolic is getting clawed in by at least half a second a lap here, and the 2 of them are going to be over him very, very shortly.
Yeah, he's going to have to watch his rear wing on the back of that 720S GT3 McLaren, 4-litre V8, turbocharged engine, 6-speed gearbox, and the car is fully built, even though it's virtually speaking, it's going to be built at Woking at the MTC. We got 6 of them on the grid on the very first round. As you can see on the top left of your screen, there's Trundley and also Bro. So it's McLaren versus Aston. But Joey Frolic has actually got up the road quicker than I think probably both Trundley and Bro expected there, David.
Yeah, they're caught in a battle though just now, Trundley and Bro, and Trundley having a little bit of a moment on the exit of the Craner curves. That got brought in Bro right up to the back of his tail, but it's here, it's on Starkey Straight, and then through the Fogarty S's. That's where they make this time up just now, and look at that, they're almost onto the back of that just now. It's just about a second of a gap.
So 2.5 minutes go until the casting votes close for the DAF Driver of the Day. We've got 2 votes so far. It's a 50-50 split between 2 drivers. But please, we need your votes in. I might even extend it to the end of the race. Let's go for it. Extend it to the end of the race for your DAF Driver of the Day. So you've got 7 minutes and 9 seconds until the race ends. And what a race it's been, David. We've had incidents, we've had accidents, we've had stop-go penalties, we've had drive-throughs, we've had mandatory pit stops, and a heck of a lot of action here for the opening foray here at Donington Park.
It's had it all, really, hasn't it? I mean, everything you could possibly want in an opening race, and I think we're still about to be treated to even more. Just got my eye on this battle for 9th place. John Munro is fighting Edward Sibbald to every inch of that car's existence right now. The Corvette C7 GT3 is holding on with every fibre of its being right now. John Munro putting that car under so much pressure right now.
Yes, fighting to every... Now, we've got another 2 votes in, and there is 1 driver leading the way in the DAF Driver of the Day. You've got 6 minutes and 10 seconds to get your votes in. So when we hit 0 on the timer, the Driver of the Day votes will be closed. The voting will be closed. But great battle here now. This is between Martin and Elliott for what is P3 in the M2. Oh, bit sideways there coming out of the Melbourne hairpin from Elliott. But really good spatial awareness from the pair of them, as that's Joey Frolic going up the inside through into Goddard's.
Oh, and Ainbro tries to make a move on Bobby Trundley on that last corner there. Didn't work, and off goes Ainbro to do a little bit of grass cutting right now. Doesn't cost him too much time, but what a move that could have been. As great move there from Dave Martin, trying to take that place there from Ryan Elliott. What a battle we've got with 5 minutes left to go. It's all kicking off all through the circuit, but these BMWs are where we want to be right now. Dave Martin and Ryan Elliott coming into the old hairpin.
Aidenborough up the inside of Elliott there through the old hairpin, and Bro goes around the outside of Martin, so he used his great spatial awareness. I mean, that's no wonder why he's a multi-time champion in his own right in the sim racing world. But Aidenborough actually qualified for the Le Mans Esports Invitational, the actual final event that's going to take place at Le Mans in late September, as he qualified at the Autosport International Show Invitational. So he is quick, and he's adapted quickly. I know it's going to be a testament to his skills as a racer. And we now have 4 drivers voted. We do have a tie for the DAF driver of the day, but you've still got 4 minutes, 20 seconds to get your votes in. eTeam BRIT at teambrit.co.uk. That's where you need to place your votes. They come directly to myself here in the commentary box. As again, this battle royale between Martin and Elliott for position in the M2 Club Sport category, the BMW series here at Donington Park. It is elbows out aplenty.
I was hoping that's what you guys were watching, because this is what a cracking battle with just 4 minutes left to go. You could not ask for a better script right now in this. This is for the BMW M2 Club Sports and the SYNETIQ BMWs. I did say they were going to give us some fantastic racing, and they absolutely have not disappointed us. Dave Martin, I think, has got a little bit of a breather here, but through the S's here, that's where Ryan Elliott catches right back up, and I think it's going to be the run from McLean's onwards that we're going to see the speed from Ryan Elliott.
Right, yellow in sector 2, with 3 minutes and 20 still on the clock remaining here. And this race, David, is absolutely flown by, but we're being treated to grandstand finales like we had in the Team BRIT Summer Series in association with Texaco. And look how much Elliott is pressurising Martin, and he sends it up the inside towards the Yomp on Starkey Straight, heading towards the Fogarty S's. Ryan still ahead by a whisker. Elliott trying to do all he can to force Martin into a mistake or look to get the drag. He's got a really good run. He's going side by side towards the Melbourne hairpin, and he could get it if he's up alongside enough, and he's got through, and he goes sideways, putting the power down in the 66 BMW M2 Club Sport. That was a brilliant manoeuvre, but to control it like that out of that corner was brilliantly done.
Yeah, and we've not seen the end of this. Dave Martin's going to be absolutely fizzing at that one, because not only did Ryan Elliott get the better exit out of the chicane there, out the Fogarty S's, when he dived into the Melbourne hairpin, which he was absolutely entitled to do, he then compromised the speed and the momentum that Dave Martin had. So really the dice and the ball is in Ryan Elliott's hands right now.
So just under 2 minutes remaining of the opening round of the eTeam BRIT GT3 Challenge in the SYNETIQ BMW Series, with a grandstand finale on the cards. But we now have a 3-way tie for DAF Driver of the Day, David. With the last vote that's come in, I'm going to take that one. Any votes, and that's even open to the drivers, if they want to vote for another driver, as long as they're... that was close between... that was one of the Corvettes.
That was Sybil's, yeah. Oh my goodness me, what a melee we've got coming on the back straight here, as the Corvette, the BMW, and I think that's a McLaren that's involved there, all make their way down as well.
Yeah, that looks to be either one of the eTeam BRIT or the Team BRIT drivers. Quite distinctive liveries for both Joey Pollock and Matt Richards. As we are now less than 60 seconds away. Oh, a little bit of a nerf there. No, that's opportunistic. Dave Martin up the inside of Ryan Elliott. coming out of the Melbourne hairpin, tried to do the same as what the 66 did to him just a couple of laps ago. Really close through the exit of Goddard's.
So we've got two huge finishes coming up. We've got 1 minute left to go. Bobby Trundley and Aidan Brow now within 0.2 of a second of each other for 6th and 7th place. And then you've got Ryan Elliott and Dave Martin 17th and 18th place. I think Ryan Elliott might just have that one, but Bobby Trundley is really, really under pressure right now from Aidan Brow.
Oh, crikey. 10, 9, 8, 7. I'm going to count this down. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's it. Time's up. Daft Driver of the Day will be decided by myself and David after the checkered flag. But my goodness me, what an opening round here at Donington Park in Leicestershire before we head to the Netherlands. Joe Frolick's home track next time around in just a week's time. But it's going to be quite convincing what has happened. So we wait for Chris Butcher from IMB VOD Bull Racing and the number 65 M6 GT3. He's come through the Melbourne hairpin. So Monroe and Sybil are swapping places like it's going out of fashion. But the checkered flag has been given to Chris Butcher from IMB VOD Bull Racing in the 65 BMW M6 GT3. And around a few seconds from now, we will have Matt Richards from Zanshow Racing taking the checkered flag in the number 45 McLaren. Daniel Brewer makes it an IMB VOD Bull Racing 1-3 as well. Now the biggest thing is, David, is that we have a decision to make. But we'll talk, hopefully, if we can mute off our broadcast mics and talk between ourselves.
What a grandstand finish, Alex, we've got. Sorry, yeah, that's what I was going to point out. Bobby Trundley and Aidan Brow are fighting it out through this last corner. There's a little bit of contact as Brow is trying to get his way around. It's not going to be, though. Surely it's not going to be a drag race. It's going to be Bobby Trundley in 6th place. Aidan Brow unlucky to get past him, but 7th place. That is not a bad result for race number 1, Alex.
So Chris Butcher takes the race victory here. The first round out of 8 here at Donington Park Grand Prix circuit. All drivers now have to make their way to the pit. So Chris Butcher wins ahead of Matt Richards from Zanshow Simsport, who will be sporting the number 44 and his actual livery next week at Zandvoort. He takes 2nd position ahead of Daniel Brewer. In 3rd place, Ross McGregor and Joe Frolick. Frolick will round out the top 5 respectively ahead of Bobby Trundley. Had that great ding-dong battle with Aidan Brow in the dying stages right up until the final lap. And that was 6th and 7th. Andy Tucker from Team Brit in 8th. Ed Sibbald from Cadan Casual Apex in 9th ahead of John Monroe. Sandro Ballesteros from eTeam BRIT finished ahead of Team Texaco's Max Spooner. Bradley Brockies in the 105 McLaren 720 SGT3 in 13th ahead of Dan Hyde. We had, looks like Freddie Hunt and both Adam Bukaszewski were DNFs in that, with Martin Buchan completing his first victory in the SYNETIQ BMW series. So by my reckoning, it is Chris Butcher. Sorry, I'm just gonna wait for the results to come up. But we have 3 drivers to decide on who is going to be our Daft Driver of the Day. So David, we need to have a quick conflab so we can quickly announce that. Right, ladies and gentlemen, with just over 28.5% of the votes from the general public, but the casting vote by myself, Alex Goldschmidt, and David Christie, your official eTeam BRIT GT3 Challenge and SYNETIQ BMW Series commentators, the DAF driver of the day goes to a very well-deserved comeback, thanks to one Ross McGregor in the number 3 Marlowe Watch Company Racing Aston Martin GT3. David, just give us a brief explanation about from that.
Yeah, that was actually a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. We had some incredible standout performances, but given the 3 drivers that we had to choose from, Martin Buchan, obviously a wonderful, wonderful performance in the BMW. I don't think that we saw as much as he's got to offer in terms of defensive driving or things like that, so he wasn't really put under too much challenge there. And just for me, Ross McGregor showed some real grit and determination despite the early incidents that he suffered there, dropping very, very far back down the order, including incidents with his own teammate, to come back and get that 4th place. That was a really, really strong drive from Ross.
Very much agreed. So what we're going to do now, before we wrap up the broadcast, is we're going to speak to our top 3 in the eTeam BRIT GT3 Challenge, brought to you in association by Jura, and also our inaugural SYNETIQ BMW Series winner. So first of all, let's have a chat with IMB Vodball Racing's very own Chris Butcher. Congratulations. Just try and see if we can get Chris very shortly. So just bear with us. So firstly, Chris, can you hear me?
Hello.
Congratulations, well done.
Thanks very much.
Now, obviously, we saw that the incident that Matt had earlier on trying to get one of the BMWs, that factored in quite significantly because you and Daniel were both chasing him down and he had a gap of around nearly 9 seconds lead, but then it just sort of fell into your hands a little bit. Just talk to us about it from your perspective.
I was convinced he had short field and was running light. He had absolutely phenomenal pace. He seems to have that car absolutely dialed in, but yeah, just coming out the old hairpin, and I saw him rejoining the track and kind of thought, well, you know, if my feeling was right about his strategy, then I had a chance, and it ended up working out that way for me. But, you know, if that hadn't have happened, I think the result would have been completely different.
Well, well done. Congratulations. Look forward to seeing you at Zandvoort in just a week's time.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Okay, next up, we'll speak to our 3rd place driver, also Chris's teammate, Daniel Brewer in the 91 BMW. Dan, very interesting race from our perspective in the commentary box, but obviously you and Chris, you know, sort of leading the way in the team's championship now, because obviously Chris has got the maximum amount of points for a race victory, so that goes towards the efforts of the team. I mean, how does that put you guys in terms of motivation for next week in Zandvoort?
Yeah, it's pretty pleasing to, I mean, coming into a series like this is quite unknown for me because I'm very much used to open wheelers. So yeah, sort of came in here not really expecting a whole lot, and yeah, I'm pretty happy with the podium. Actually, I think it could have been a whole lot better, to be honest, without all the contact at the start. You know, I ended up spun around and had quite a significant amount of damage actually on my car. I don't know how much of a difference that actually made, but yeah, it was good to actually get back to the podium, because obviously several times in the past your race would have been over for the same sort of thing. So yeah, pretty happy, and hopefully we can push on from now.
Brilliant. Congratulations on P3 here at Donington Park. We'll see you next week at Zandvoort. Okay, now we'll head to our runner-up, our pole sitter, and also the man that set the fastest lap in the race, Matt Richards from Zancho Simsport. Matt, that was a topsy-turvy race, I think, in the way that both myself and David were looking at it, but also from your viewpoint as well.
A little bit, yeah. Coming into it a bit short notice, I didn't have a lot of time to figure a strategy out. So I just tried to work something out on the fuel, and turns out my stop was a hell of a lot longer than Chris's. So I think if I'd have had that gap that I had before that little incident with the BMW, then maybe might have been a different story. But yeah, short notice and a lack of knowledge on the strategy there.
Well, you have had a busy time at the moment, obviously racing with the likes of Jenson Button and Alex Buncombe last weekend, funnily enough, at the Le Mans 24-hour virtual in the Team Rocket Zancho car, which was, I think, was watched by 63 million people. I mean, just now that we've got you here, what was that from your perspective, really, just to be involved in such a huge event that had over 200 drivers, 37 different nationalities, and you had GTE and LMP2, and it was on a pretty much level playing field with the Eureka chassis being used. What was that as a sort of like a halcyon experience for the world of sim racing?
Still a bit speechless on it, to be honest. Spending weeks on end working with the likes of Jenson Button, Andy Prio, and people like that. It's a bit crazy to suddenly find yourself in that situation when maybe a couple of weeks before you were just sort of doing a little bit of sim racing and and just enjoying it. So yeah, absolutely incredible, and I can't thank the guys at Sancho Simsport with Silverstone Composites enough for giving me that opportunity. So yeah, just an incredible couple of weeks, really.
Brilliant, Matt. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next week at Zandvoort, running the number 44 in your full livery this time on the McLaren.
Cheers. Thank you very much.
No problem. Okay, well, I think I'm going to hand this one over to you, David. In the interview booth with us is our inaugural SYNETIQ BMW Series winner, Martin Buchan.
Well, Martin, it's this isn't the first time we've done this, so a very good evening. Hope you enjoyed that race as much as we did. Talk us through that one, because the BMWs were quite a wild ride tonight.
Yeah, cheers, Stephen. And first of all, thanks to you and Alex and Simply Race for putting this great championship on. It's been really good fun so far. Yeah, that race was tough, though. I mean, it was so close between me, Ryan, and Chris. It was phenomenal. Qualifying, I got really lucky with a cracking draft as well. But man, those GT3 cars, they make it really tough for some.
With the first half of the race, you were under some real pressure from your competitors in the SYNETIQ BMW Championship. What was it like, and how difficult was it to keep the composure when suddenly you had all of these GT3 cars racing?
It was probably when the GT3 cars came, it was actually a bit easier, because you're kind of hoping they might go for a move that holds the guys behind you up. But at the start, it was just about trying to keep it clean, to be honest. And this car it's very hard to. Once you've got it on the limit, anything just throws it, and then the guys behind you can catch it again. Because I was kind of getting a gap, thought, okay, here we go, I've got a nice rhythm. Completely lost it when the GT3s came along, and yeah, it was just about making sure, right, hit my marks every time and wait for the mistakes from behind.
Well, congratulations again on the inaugural class win, Martin Buchan. We look forward to seeing you round 2 at Zandvoort, and enjoy the rest of your...
David, thanks, mate.
Okay, before we wrap things up here at Donington Park, the one of the Team Texaco drivers, but also the eTeam BRIT team manager Max Spooner joins us. Max, apart from the racing, what are your thoughts after what's been a very interesting first opener here at Donington Park? If he can hear me.
I think Max Spinner is missing in action, isn't he?
Yes, the wonders of modern technology. We'll just give him a second or two. But 2 worthy winners, plenty of action. Join myself, David, and Max next week, next Thursday, just 24 hours before we go lights out for 60 minutes at Zandvoort in the Netherlands, just by the North Sea coast next week. It's been a pleasure bringing this new championship to the fore. We've got people interested to join us. So thank you for joining me, Alex Goldschmidt, and David Christie, your official eTeam BRIT GT3 Challenge, brought to you in association by Jura and the SYNETIQ BMW Series. Join us both next week here on the relevant streams for round 2, when we head to the Netherlands at Circuit Zandvoort. Thank you for watching.